Brandemart.
Here.
Commissioner Grace.
Here.
Commissioner Salvino.
Here.
Assistant City Manager Donnelly.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Thank you.
Can you please bow your heads for a moment of silence? Thank you. And can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
I hate this chair.
All right, welcome. Guess we'll start out with presentations and special event approvals. The first one is the yearly Dolphin Cycling Challenge, which goes through the city of Dania Beach. Do we have any issues with this item?
No, Mayor.
Any comments?
Say Dolphins of Dallas. What did you say?
The Dallas Dolphins,
Oh, okay.
whichever makes everyone happy.
Approve the item, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second one is for the Rail Fun Day that is put on by the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority. Do we have any issues with this?
No, Mayor.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the third one is the Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and that will be happening the 13th through the 15th. Do we have any issues with this?
No. No.
Move the item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We don't have any proclamations. We're going to go to citizens' comments. Do we have any? No? Tom, is it under that? It's under your piece of paper? Okay. No?
Okay.
We had some. All right. These are citizens' comments. If you could please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Clive Taylor.
Quick update of the bike show and of a study we made. I've got to apologize, I didn't have 5 copies made.
Thank you, Clive.
We'll share.
We could share.
Y'all so cute.
This is from the 1960s.
You have this. Could you please state your name and address for the record, Clive?
Clive Taylor, 642 Northeast 3rd Street, Dania Beach. If you look at this study, the first part of the first page is cities by alphabetical order, and it tells where all the motorcycles come and what city they came from. And the next page is alphabetical order of every city and where they came from. So we have a numerical order and a alphabetical order. And if you don't know where Citra, Florida is, it's someplace north of Tampa. But also we had 8 states represented: Maryland, Ohio, Georgia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Indiana, North Carolina, and Kentucky, plus 5 motorcycles from Canada. So I just want to let you know that's the spread of the people that come here.
Yep.
And we wanted to just document it. We are going to have an ice racer from Canada that was in the movie on any Sunday, so that's a kind of a interesting one. And this year's competition is the same. And we've got 2 road racing sidecar motorcycles from the Isle of Man, UK, coming. So that part of it, our competition is getting bigger. So I just wanted to give you an update.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Looking forward to it.
Me too.
Christine Douglas. Y'all just gonna eat this one.
Look,
I can't get fine like that.
oh, that's right, you're dieting.
Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Ready, set, go.
You know I got a timer.
I know. Christine Douglas, 4665 Southwest 30th Terrace. I'll make it brief. A couple months ago, I came to you all asking for some assistance for one of our neighbors, Juanita Swanberg. I want to thank you all very, very much from the bottom of my heart what you all did. The county, the city came in, code enforcement came in, they cleaned it up. She wasn't happy about all the trees leaving, but they needed to go because it was for her own safety. So every time I've come to you all for something, You've always come through, and I thank you all so very much, from our entranceway to our neighborhood to our citizens in the neighborhood. So thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
I'm really proud to hear that. Jose Armand. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jose Armand, and I am a Dania Beach resident. I live at 50 Southeast 3rd Avenue, apartment 3. So good evening, buenas noches, bonsoir, and Happy New Year 2018 to everybody. As some of you know, I serve on the Creative Arts Council Advisory Board to the City of Dania Beach. My contribution is in the performing arts as artistic producing director for the Latino Ensemble, Inc. So I am here today to invite the commission and anyone actually out there, anyone who might be interested in attending our next Creative Arts Council meeting next Thursday, the 16th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I am slated or scheduled to give a 15-minute talk in which we will be showing a 6-minute video of the work that our then Los Angeles-based nonprofit organization, Latino Ensemble, it organized and produced the first ever Festival Latino in Los Angeles in 1990. My art talk will serve as an intro of sorts of plans to relaunch as a community partner here in Dania Beach and Broward County, the Latino Ensemble as a Florida-based nonprofit 501c3 organization. After my presentation at the Creative Arts Council, you can leave. Or not. You may stay for the rest of the meeting, being that the art-friendly duo of CRA Director Ms. Raquel Williams and Dan Murphy, also of the CRA, recently attended a meeting of the Community Foundation of Broward, and a rep from said foundation has been invited to attend and also give a talk about grants and all those good things. Latino Ensemble has been an organization that since its inception has promoted equity and inclusion in the performing arts of communities of people of color, Black, brown, and those living in the margins of the LGBTQ community, especially the Q. Latino Ensemble has highlighted their artistic contributions to the performing arts, be that as actors, producers, writers, and or inspired poets. We welcome this community's input and extend an open invitation to anyone interested in knowing more about the Latino Ensemble and being a part of the vital artistic movement that will be sweeping Broward County in 2018. And this is an Oprah Winfrey moment, which we hope you can join us in celebration of the arts. So thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you at the meeting.
Thank you,
Hasta la
Jose.
vista,
Thanks for the
amigo.
invitation.
Thank
you.
you. Linda Wilson. Good evening. Could you please?
Hello
state-
again. I'm Linda Wilson. I'm here today as the president of the Dania Beach Friends of the Library, and I'm here to thank you. Thank you for the Charitable Grant Award. You have no idea how much this means to us every year for our summer programs and for our ability to provide year-round programs for everyone, adults and children. We expend approximately $11,000 a year on free programs. And the grant that you awarded to us is a little less than a third of what we spend. But without it and without your support on a continuous basis, we could not do what we do. We have expanded so much our programs over the past 3 years, and without the City of Dania Beach support, we could not do it. We have added many new programs. We will be seeing you this weekend in the Martin Luther King Parade and at the festivities. We are part of that as well. We will see you at the motorcycle show, where we will have 2 bikes this year. Clive, thank you very much for your assistance. But that's our newest bike. And then this is our last bike that we had last year, which is an old 1940s. But we are very proud to have the camaraderie that we have with many of the groups in the city. And we also started a Zumba Gold for all of you who are over 50. This Friday on the 19th at 10:30 to 11:15.
Yeah,
And it's you can do it with or without the assistance of chair. But we also started a Zumba class for children, and last night was the second one we've had, and it's very successful. So I encourage you to please look at the free programs we provide. We publish it every month. It's in the Dania Press, and it's free. Free, free, free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda.
Public safety reports. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Leading up to the holidays and during the holidays, we had several burglaries to businesses. The first thing in my report is going to pretty much sum up that. We arrested two subjects, 19 and 20 years old, during an undercover operation by our Criminal Investigations Unit. Communication was established with one of the subjects who was selling a stolen motorcycle on OfferUp. You've heard me speak about the online marketplaces and how a lot of stolen items turn up on that. Some of our detectives posed as buyers and went to buy the stolen motorcycle and took both subjects into custody. The investigation revealed that the individuals were responsible for all the burglaries to the businesses we've had recently, including the one that was stolen. That was from Max Towing Yard, this Dania Beach City water plant. They were responsible for that, and Competition Cycle, where numerous motorcycles and dirt bikes were stolen as well. So it was a very successful operation. One of our deputies saw somebody loitering on the corner that we haven't seen in several months. So stopped out, talked to him, noticed a bulge under his shirt. It was a firearm. He was a convicted felon. We took him into custody. When we ran his name, he came back with 8 additional felonies, including possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and 8 felonies from other states. So he was in other states committing crimes. So he won't be getting out of jail anytime soon. We're working on a shred-a-thon and Operation Medicine Cabinet for one of the last 2 Saturdays in March. So as soon as I get that scheduled, I'll let everybody know. Does anybody have any issues, questions, concerns?
I have a question. There have been a lot of break-ins to cars. I don't know if you're all aware, my car was broken into while I went on Disney Cruise, little jerks. And I just wanted to know, did we get a hold of the person? I mean, especially in that community, it was several over the Christmas break. Do we have any leads on those?
Not at this point. There was one subject that we stopped. He was riding a bike without a light. That was the cause for the stop. But he could explain why he was there. He lived in the area. It's going to take our deputies in an undercover capacity, driving around, stopping people without lights on their bikes and looking suspicious, acting suspicious, counting on the residents to call us when they see somebody or doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Good evening to all
Good
members of the
evening.
dais. Sean Brown for our Sheriff's Office Fire Rescue. Really, the only thing that I kind of had to report on tonight is something you guys are probably already aware of, and it was the boat fire that we had in our own marina across from the pier. On the morning of January 3rd, about 4:30-ish in the morning, we had a 41-foot Chris Craft motor yacht that caught fire. There was a witness, I guess, that noticed or actually heard some popping noises, looked over, saw a fire in the bridge, went over to the vessel, knocked on the side of the vessel, woke two 2 persons in the vessel that were actually, I guess, asleep at the time. They were able to get their dog out. They got the dog out. By the time our crews arrived there, the vessel was pretty well involved. We were able to get some of our marine unit over there. We were able to dislodge we were able to have another vessel that was adjacent to it freed and taken to a safe place where it was not in danger of catching fire. The weather was reasonable for us. The winds were out of the east. This vessel happened to be pretty far west from other vessels, so the guys did a pretty good job putting the fire out. Sometimes those fires can be pretty stubborn because they pretty much turn into flammable liquid fires when the fuels from the vessels seep up to the surface of the water. So they had to basically punch holes in the side, fill it with foam, and that's how we extinguished the fire. We were on scene for a little while until we finally got complete extinguishment. But that's all that I really had to report to you guys. We don't really know the cause yet. I haven't. The investigation was actually left with the state fire marshal's office, and sometimes it takes a little while for us to get the information back from them. So I have not received that back yet. So.
Okay, Commissioner Brandon Marty.
Yes. What is the policy on people living on their boats in that marina?
I don't believe they're supposed to be living on the boat.
Thank you. And second of all, I went down there, okay, and it seems that the laptop battery, I know nothing about laptop batteries. For you that know, you could tell me. It seems to have exploded and created that fire. And the neighbor is the first one that saw it, went over there and banged on the door. So I said to this man, well, why were they sleeping? He said, well, there's a lot of people here that live on these boats. We have no problem getting rid of and renting out those slips down there. We have people banging on the doors of the city. And I think that someone has to enforce the fact that they cannot live on their boats in our marina. Thank God that boat didn't catch enough fire. Well, it went to the bottom because I went there. Wasn't even there. I went there to see nothing. All right? They hauled it away or they towed it out of there. But they're not supposed to be living on their boats. And unless that's enforced, I could see multiple lawsuits here. So that's my comment.
Right? Isn't it up to West Trek to enforce that? Is it not?
Colin Donnelly, Assistant City Manager. Part of the marina is set aside for transient boaters. When we built the marina, we took money from the Florida Inland Navigation District, and their purpose is to encourage boating up along the intercoastal waterway. So a certain section of those boats are for transients. Those are people, snowbirds who come down by boat, and they're going to live there, but they don't live anywhere else because they're there temporarily. But we've discussed this with West Trek, and I'll talk with Mr. Felicity about going through there again and making sure we don't have liveaboards because it's against our policy and it's outside their lease. You know, their lease are not supposed to be living there with a fixed address. Now we do have boat owners who come down on the weekend who may come down for Saturday and Sunday. That's not considered a liveaboard, so they may be sleeping on the boat. But strict liveaboards where that's their fixed address, we do not allow. And so I'll address that with Mr. Felicity, and he'll address it with West Trek.
Okay, just to let you know, I already knew that answer, and I knew about the transits and all that. However, we got people down there that are running a business from their boats. And that is not transit. When you're using your computer and laptops to do your business from the boat, you're living on it. Otherwise, you'd have it home in your own house. That's my feelings on it. So if anybody ever gets hurt down there, and this was not enforced, by the way, who enforces this?
West Trek, they're our dockmaster. The dockmaster.
Well, then I think that a letter should be sent to West Trek or something warning them. Because he could have killed somebody else living in their boat. Thank you, Mark. I see him writing back there, so I know he's on it.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good evening. Consent agenda. Do we have any pulls?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to pull 7.2.
Uh-huh. And I want to pull 7.4.
Wait a minute.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7.2 and 7.4.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
7.2, travel request from the mayor to attend Annual Women Economic Forum, WEF 2018, in New Delhi, India on April 25th through May 1st of this year. Estimated cost between $2,412 to $2,700.
Mayor and residents, I have an issue with this. I don't help India, they don't help us. Here it is, all right? This Women's Empower movement that the mayor wants to attend, I feel should be attended at her own expense. And I'm going to tell you why. In 2004, I was not on this commission. Bobby, were you?
No.
Oh, well, all right. 2004, there was an invitation from a place called Sisters Cities 100th anniversary, and it was in Copenhagen, Denmark. McElroy was the mayor then.
Paid his own way.
Right. How do you know? But you weren't on here, okay.
I
know.
I keep up with my city.
Okay, Bob Mikes. Oh, I was waiting for your second name.
No.
Paid his own way. Ivan Pato, they must have been rich because he even brought his wife and paid his own way. There was a reimbursement, and I'm very transparent, and I'll tell you what it was for. $349 is what I found out to Bob Mikes or someone like that, because they got stuck, I understand, because there was an airline strike in France. But these people paid their own way, and at first when I read this was on the consent agenda, I thought it was a misprint. I soon found out it wasn't. I pulled the item because I started to receive texts and phone calls from residents because it's their money. That's taxpayers' money. None of us should be paid to go out of the country. City policy has been that trips made by commissioners are used mainly for city business. All right, city business doesn't mean only women. This event is for women's empowerment. I should go with 2 BSO officers
but you weren't
escorting
invited.
me because it's an unrest in that county. I'm not finished. I have the floor, Mayor.
Okay, calm down.
Okay, no, I'm not when you start to talk when I'm talking.
Oh.
Okay. I, for one, do not feel that it is city business. It's women's empowerment. It isn't helping any of our males. It just don't make sense. To use taxpayers' dollar to send any of us outside the USA is unjust. Fact is, it's the USA that helps these countries. They're not helping us. I will not vote for this, and I want the records to not only reflect my vote, but to also note that I gave the explanation that I did. It is not right to send any of us. Next year, I'm going to come, if this passes, and ask you to send me to Italy. I want to go see the Pope and bring back a message for the Catholics. And that's how I feel on this senseless trip to India. And unless India is in Florida, I am totally against this.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
You're welcome. And so, okay. Now I am going to, this is called the Women's Economic Forum, which I did not seek them. They sought me. And just like other conferences that are inside of the USA that commissioners on this dais spend just as much money on and have done it in the last few months. I really believe that the only issue, if this was in Alabama, there wouldn't be an issue. There are a lot of global conferences. There's one that's coming to the convention center, and I'm just going to, a few of the issues, the networking issues, and yes, it is for all women, this one only, this specific one, but doesn't mean that there aren't different conferences. Now, I can't help that they sought me out and everyone else wasn't included. I'm sorry, but I'm going to address some of the things that I think is city related and that would benefit myself from going and learning. If you're not aware, we are in a developmental boom here, And we have a lot of different cultures that are here. We have a lot of people that are from a lot of different countries that are living here. And if you're not cultured, you better get cultured, because what's being built around here and what is here, you need to be able to relate to people around the world. There are people from Italy that are investing here in Dania Beach. There are people from Russia that are investing here in Dania Beach. So issues of pollution, culture change, water, and waste, that's something that I think that could benefit the city. Cultural leadership in the place of the artist, why partnership is the new leadership. Innovative models for funding your ideas. All these ideas we have to come up with innovative ways of funding these ideas. Solving local problems, sustainable development goals, engaging communities in empowering communication, tourism planning, and regional development. Again, what's coming up the pipeline? We can look at Dania Point. There will be a lot of tourists that come in and out of Dania Beach. Branding, marketing, HR, diversity, and inclusion. We don't even have an HR department right now, if you're not aware. I'm sure you are aware. Everyone's aware. Branding and marketing, that's something that we're currently going through right now in the city of Dania Beach. Leadership performance and management development, capitalizing on the demographic shift. There is a demographic shift that is happening here in Dania Beach. If you're not, I understand that we are the first city in Dania Beach. I understand that we are very closed-minded to a lot of things, and I understand that we always wait for everyone else to do things before we jump on the bandwagon and do them ourselves. People need to, it's over 100 countries that's going to be represented here. If you looked at the attendees that will be on this list, there are a lot of people from the USA that will be there. From municipalities to authors, doctors, professors, professionals. This is not something that I'm going to clap my hands and they sought me out, I'm sorry. And balanced leadership. Those are just a few of them over a wide variety of them that are in our backup and that was put in front of us. Like I said, we go and attend the Florida League of Cities every month almost. From California to North Carolina to Orlando, and we spend just as much money as me going out of the country. I mean, it's up to you all. You guys vote how you want to vote. I think it's a prestigious honor for your mayor to even be included in something as prestigious as this and to get notoriety to Dania Beach. I think that it brings a lot of notice to the city of Dania Beach to have someone to be able to go and network on your behalf. You have no idea who you can meet in these places. So it's up to you all. That is how I feel about it. I wrote all this stuff down because I knew someone was going to have something to say, and I knew if this is in Orlando, no one would have anything to say. So I'll go back to Commissioner Brandon. Marty, go ahead.
Right. All of the issues that you brought up that you learned there, we all 5 of us learned over at the Florida League of Cities, and it's right here in Orlando. We take classes from early morning to 5 o'clock at night. There's no reason to go outside of the United States. Also, women's empowerment classes are right here in the U.S. I still stand the ground that it's a waste of the taxpayers' money. I know a lot of people up here like to travel. They like to go and be out in the limelight, as we all know. But this, to me, is a waste of money.
Thank you. Commissioner Grace?
Yes, I think that it is an honor that they ask you to represent the city of Dania Beach. I was actually looking at what was coming up for us this month, and it is the session that's going to be in Tallahassee. I absolutely refuse to go to Tallahassee because we waste so much time and energy, and I'm a very positive person that we really get nothing done when we get to Tallahassee because everybody is on cloud now and that thinks they know everything and do nothing in return. The $2,000 that they're talking about, I've got 11 months left. Take my travel time. You go. You represent us, and you bring back the information that we need.
Anyone else? Do we need a motion? Do we have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Can I second it? Second. Call the roll, please.
Who seconded?
I did.
She's allowed a second roll.
Yes, you can.
This is a farce.
Big
Call
mad.
the roll.
Okay, right, I'm ready. Commissioner Brandimart,
No.
Commissioner Grace,
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino,
No.
Vice Mayor Harris,
If it was part of a Florida delegation of women, I would say yes, or Broward County. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Grace, but because of comments from the community, the phone calls, I think all these things are available here in the U.S. And, you know, I'm just so torn about it, but, you know, I'm going to have to.
24.
What's up?
I just said you just spent $2,400 in North Carolina.
It was in the U.S.
It's a conference. No matter
I
if
mean,
it's
you
in
guys
China.
voted for me to be the designate to the League of Cities.
We put him in vote.
That's fine. I don't
but-
mind. I don't mind you going. I don't mind anyone
Can he
going.
please make his vote?
Can you please let me talk?
Intimidation.
I don't think I'm intimidating.
Yes,
Am I
you are.
intimidating you, Vice Mayor?
No.
I am. We are
No.
going to
No.
finish it.
It's no then. It's no.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor James.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Motion failed.
Sorry. Okay. It'll be back up.
Okay, 7.4 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, requesting advance approval from the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach to proceed with the bid advertisement for the project known as the Parks and Recreation Department 10-year Master Plan Project, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Okay. Now, I brought this up because I wanted to make sure that the master plan included a possible Frost Park Community Center.
Agree.
Mayor, the consultant is going to come in and meet with everybody. We can certainly mention that to them, but he's going to meet with all of you, and that's something you can bring up, your ideas about future recreation issues, but we'll make a note of it.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Wait, I have a question. Is it going to be a motion to approve with that being a part of it?
That's already part of it.
It's already a part of it, isn't it?
But a
It
different
can
scope
be.
of it. If we're going to put a building there, I want to make sure that that's included in it.
I think we're already all involved in it, but sure, you call it whatever you want.
Huh?
Yes?
Well, I don't make motions, but if you
No, what I'm
She's
asking,
for
what I'm
your
asking.
opinion. She's not asking you to make a motion. She's
No.
asking for your opinion as the assistant city attorney.
Manager.
City manager, whatever.
No, what I'm asking is I want to make sure that in the verbiage that goes out, that if we come back 2 years later or whatever, however long the master plan takes, that this specific community center that we are currently trying to secure here is included in the scope of work.
We will put it in the scope of work.
Thank you.
That's part of my motion.
Do we write that in?
We will. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Who seconded?
I did.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart,
Yes, with the proper wording.
Commissioner Grace,
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't have any bids and requests for proposals. Now we have our public hearings.
Okay, public hearings. Anybody who's going to address the commission on the following items, these are what known as quasi-judicial items, meaning anybody who's going to speak other than the lawyers. Lawyers are not testifying, but anybody else is considered testifying, including city staff. So you'll have to stand to be sworn as we deal with each application. The first one consists of 3 different pieces, but that's for well, first is the FP&L matter. So there's an FP&L matter at 9.2. Second is the BC Dania Oaks. There's 3 items there. And then there's the, let's see, the ALYA LLC rezoning of the property on Sterling Road. And then lastly, the H2O site plan. So anybody's going to speak on any of these matters, if I could please ask you to stand for a second, including city staff. Anybody who's going to talk to the commission, swear or affirm the testimony to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thanks so much. Please be seated. And city commissioners, when I call them, if you've been contacted by anybody, either for or against, if you'd please so disclose. The first item won't have that issue. First item is 9.1, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the expenditure of city funds exceeding $1 million for debris hauling and disposal services from Bergeron Emergency Services, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date. It's the second reading of that ordinance. Public hearing? Public hearing.
She's not going to go over it. Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this?
Make a motion to pass it, Mayor.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor James?
Yes.
Thank you.
9.2, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Dania Beach Comprehensive Plan to change the future land use text to add an electrical generation facilities land use classification as attached, and to amend the future land use plan map to change the designation of approximately 373 gross acres as legally described in Exhibit A attached to this ordinance from utilities and industrial to electrical generation facilities for property located at 3051 Southwest 30th Avenue, pursuant to a request submitted by Leigh Robinson Kerr and Associates, Leigh Kerr AICP, on behalf of the property owner, Florida Power and Light Company. Application LU 8717, providing for transmittal to the Broward County Planning Council and state agencies, providing for adoption pursuant to Section 163.3184 Florida statutes, requesting recertification from the Broward County Planning Council, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing for effective date. Second and final reading of this ordinance.
Good evening. Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. This is second reading, so you have heard this before, but and this is for the land use amendment and map amendment for the FP&L site. But I do want to bring forward the activity that has occurred since you saw it previously. So the application has since been reviewed by the State of Florida's Department of Economic Opportunity, which identified no comment related to the important state resources and facilities within the department's authorized scope of review that will be adversely impacted by the amendment if adopted. And then once this change is adopted by the City Commission, then it will be recertified by Broward County. And you did hear this in September 12th of last year. The Planning and Zoning Board heard this in August of last year as well. And staff's recommending approval, and I know a representative for the applicant is here if you have any questions of them.
This is a public hearing or a public meeting. Anyone to speak for or against this? Any questions on the dais?
Second.
There was a motion from Commissioner Salvino. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor James?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next three items are related. I'll read them all together. They will be separately voted upon by the Commission after one presentation by both the city and the applicant. 9.3 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the request made by BCD Dania Oaks LLC to rezone the property located at 5501 and 5525 Southwest 40th Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached to this ordinance, changing the zoning classification of the property from single-family 6,000 residential district, RS 6,000, to planned residential development district, PRD1, subject to certain restrictions, and providing for the allocation of 21 residential flex units, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing for an effective date. It's the second and final reading of this ordinance, which was continued from the December 11, 2017 Commission meeting. Item 4, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the site plan, SB 2417, submitted by BC Dania Oaks LLC for the property located at 5461 to 5525 Southwest 40th Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy which is attached to this resolution, providing for conditions, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, also continued from the December 11th, 2017 Commission meeting. And lastly, 9.5, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the Oaks Place plat, application PL 2317, submitted by Baseline Engineering and Surveying on behalf of BC Dania Oaks LLC for the property located at 5461 to 5525 Southwest 40th Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy which is attached to this resolution, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, also continued from the December 11, 2017 Commission meeting.
Good evening. So there are 3 items on the agenda tonight. I tried smushing the presentation into one presentation for you, so I'll do my best to try to articulate each of them The rezoning and assignment of flex is second reading, so you did previously hear this. So I kind of want to go through that relatively quickly. So the rezoning and flex, if you recall, are related to the southern two parcels that the applicant has been able to assemble. So this is the illustration of the property as a whole. The red outlines the total scope of the project. The yellow is the southern two parcels. That is the subject of the rezoning and the flex. When combined, the site plan and the plat will include all 4 parcels. But the first request on the agenda is for the rezoning and the flex, and that's the southern 2 parcels. So the rezoning is to rezone the southern 2 parcels from residential single family to planned residential district. The applicant is requesting to rezone those 2 southern parcels, and it would therefore be compatible and have the same designation as the northern 2 parcels, and would allow development of the site as a whole. We do have criteria identified in the Land Development Code as to the criteria for rezoning. Those are identified in your staff report, and the applicants provided justification identifying how their requests are consistent with those criteria. Part of the rezoning to the PMUD does identify a lot of site plan related topics regarding compatibility and design, but we can address some of those with the site plan as we go into it. They're also asking for the assignment of 22 flex units. This is in addition to the 14 flex units that were previously assigned to the northern 2 parcels. That was done in September of 2015. The applicant, as you're aware, has since purchased the 2 parcels to the south, and they're wanting to unify it as a development project. At the Planning and Zoning Board's request, the applicant held 3 neighborhood meetings in June, August, and September to discuss the project with the residents. The engineer has reviewed the traffic study and favorably signed off on the project. And the city's received multiple letters, emails, text, letters and emails that has been previously part of your application package in opposition to the development, but we wanted to make you aware of that as well. The plat that's being proposed is to request the 60 townhome units and 1 clubhouse. In addition, the plat also dedicates a 5-foot right-of-way dedication to Southwest 40th Avenue for potential widening of that right-of-way. And it identifies a non-vehicle access line along the eastern property line, which is along Southwest 40th Avenue. And it identifies 2 access points. One's the ingress, egress, and one is exit only from the site, which is reflected in the site plan as well. The site plan and the plat did go through the Development Review Committee in March and in May. There are some outstanding staff comments that still need to be addressed, but they're identified in the staff report and in the resolutions. I provided a copy of the plat. It's pretty generic. It shows the property lines. There's a dedication and a non-vehicle access line on the east along 40th Avenue. Okay, regarding the site plan. Now, the site plan involves all 4 parcels, so the total site. The parcels currently have significant vegetation, resulting in relocation of several trees and removal of multiple others. I did count. They are actually able to relocate 9 on the site that they're preserving but relocating. The proposed plan requires the applicant to mitigate the lost tree canopy by providing additional 10 trees on the site, and in addition, providing a payment in lieu of mitigation to the Tree Trust Fund in the amount of $31,028. And I think that's primarily because they sort of ran out of room through the preservation of the trees and the trees that are required by the code. So instead of adding even more trees, they were able to provide to the Tree Trust Fund. The project will also is proposing to have a gated entrance with a monument sign and, as I said, a secondary exit point on the southern end of the project. The site plan currently meets all setback requirements, and that was one of the variances that was originally requested, was for the setback along the front property line. They have been able to provide the 25-foot required setback on the east. They removed one of the units in order to do so. However, the single-family homes that exist on the property today are located between 60 and 157 feet from the eastern property line. What is being proposed, the clubhouse, will be 25 feet 5 inches, and the Building 8, the southern building, would be 33 feet and 11 inches from that east property line. The city engineer, I said this already, has reviewed this traffic study and has deemed it complete and accepted. The traffic study indicates that the existing level of services for the roadway currently is at C. The capacity of the road of Southwest 40th Avenue is identified as D, so there's still capacity available on that roadway. The project will add 41 p.m. peak hour trips, which will not affect the C rating. The road will continue to be a C classification. In addition, the applicant is proposing the following amendment to the resolution that we're working to have updated for you, as it's a new condition, and I'll read that for the record. So pursuant to the ordinance 2015-19, that's which granted the previous flex unit, the northern portion of the property described in Exhibit A attached hereto was previously approved for 25 residential units. The applicant will receive approval of the traffic calming roundabout design at the intersection of Southwest 40th Avenue and Southwest 54th Court by the City of Dania Beach, Florida Department of Transportation, and Broward County Traffic Engineering Division as applicable prior to the issuance of a permit for the 25th residential unit within the property described as Exhibit A, on Exhibit A attached hereto, and shall construct the roundabout prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the 25th residential unit on the property described in Exhibit A. The roundabout will be constructed within the existing right-of-way as approved by the City of Dania Beach, Department of Transportation, and the Broward County Traffic and Engineering Division as applicable. The reason why the 25th unit was used is because the previous site plan was approved for 25 units. So this design and traffic calming would be required for the units above that 25th unit. Right. As I stated before, this project did go through the Development Review Committee, and staff from different disciplines has reviewed it. There are some outstanding comments which the applicant is working towards addressing. City has seen this project previously on December 11th. It was continued after the applicant's request, but the rezoning and flex was approved on first reading November 14th. Planning and Zoning Board has also seen it multiple times, and at this point, staff's recommending approval of the resolutions that are in front of you for the rezoning, the rezoning, flex, plat, and site plan. And I know the applicant's here to make a presentation to you as well. Do you have any questions for staff? Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brandon Marty?
Yeah, excuse me, Corinne. What did you say is outstanding?
They have DRC comments that are outstanding. So it's more; those are technical compliance issues with code.
Oh, okay, that's all.
Yeah.
I thought you said something else. Thank you.
You want to come up?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dennis Mealy, 200 East Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, on behalf of the applicant, and I have been sworn. We have a brief computer presentation that's being plugged in right now. So while they're pulling that up, just to reiterate a couple of points that Ms. LaJoy just made, we did 2 traffic studies on the site. You may recall we did one in September. There was a question about that being around the time of Hurricane Irma, so we did another one in October. In the middle of the week, there was no special events or anything unusual going on at the time, and both of those traffic studies showed that the road is operating at level of service C. Anything A, B, C, or D meets the code, meets your comprehensive plan requirements. Even when you add the 41 peak hour trips from the site, 40th Avenue still remains level of service C. However, as we met with neighbors, we heard concerns about congestion at certain hours of the day, primarily during the school drop-off and pickup times, but also speeding at certain times of the day. That's why we addressed the traffic calming that I'll show you in a moment. So, as Ms. LaJoy mentioned, the property has 2 portions. I know there's 4 tax ID parcels, but we think of it as the northern piece and the southern piece simply because at one point the northern piece was owned by one group and the southern piece by another. My clients have now bought both. So the northern piece was approved in 2015 for 25 townhome units, the same type of design of the units that we have for the entire property today. The southern piece currently would allow 14 units. we're proposing 60. The northern piece, again, low 5 residential land use, PRD1 zoning as approved in 2015, which equates to 25 townhome units. The southern piece, low 5 residential land use, RS16 zoning. The land use would stay the same. The proposed zoning would be PRD1 for the southern piece, as it already is for the northern piece, and with the addition of 21 flex units, would get us to the total of 60 that I described a moment ago. Again, just showing you some of the same information with some of the same numbers. The combined parcels, a little bit over 5 acres, total of 60 units, a little bit under 12 units per acre. This is showing you the site plan for the property. Now, there's been a change made since this plan was originally drawn. If you look in this area here, we at one point had a setback that was closer to 40th Avenue than the code would allow. We had requested a variance. The reason we had done that, there's a group of trees in between these two buildings that we wanted to make sure we preserve. What we've done after talking with staff and meeting with the neighbors is we eliminated a unit, and so now the setback in that area exceeds the code. The code requires 25 feet. The setback is now 35 feet. I'll show some more setback information in a moment. Also, on the issue of trees, Ms. LaJoy mentioned the relocation of certain trees. There's 529 trees on the property today, on the overall property. We are removing 28. We are keeping 501. Now, we have Brazilian pepper and things like that on the site that don't even count as trees that you're required to remove. So when I'm talking about trees, I'm talking about the ones that we recognize as native trees, oak trees, others of that nature. So again, removing 28 trees, preserving 501 on the site. And you can see, and these green circles are just kind of depictions of groups of trees, and you can see what we're doing is preserving quite a bit along 40th Avenue. So as you drive down 40th Avenue, you're not going to be looking at buildings, you're going to be looking at landscaping. The building in the upper right is a clubhouse, which is basically the same size as a single-family home. That's our closest structure to 40th Avenue. And then this townhouse building here, now, as I mentioned, is 10 feet further off the road than the code would require. Now, this is the site plan. Again, it's turned sideways. So at the top is 40th Avenue, and then north is over to the left. And so you can see, again, the clubhouse here, our closest residential building here, which has the 35-foot setback, and then in the middle, obviously, much greater distances between the road and the buildings themselves in order to preserve the trees in that location. Ms. LaJoy mentioned the first 3 neighborhood meetings we had. We had an additional one in December. One of the reasons that we postponed from December to today was in order to respond to the feedback we received at that meeting. What we did also is we sent notices based on the 400-foot notice perimeter. But you notice in the last meeting we had an extra 50 notices go out. What we did was we sent a notice to everyone that was in the 400-foot perimeter, plus anyone who had come to the November City Commission meeting and signed up. So anyone who had showed up here, even if they were outside the 400 feet, received a notice, plus anyone who was within the 400 feet. We were asked at one point to try to determine the breakdown of the 267 notices. Who did they go to? Multifamily versus single family, et cetera. So there was 267 total notices. 2 of them went to city staff, so that leaves 265. I don't know whether the city staff lives in a single family home or a multifamily home, but I don't think they live in this block, so we didn't look. But what we did do, of the 265, 193 of the notices went to people who live in multifamily units, and 72 went to people that live in single family homes. So what that is really telling you is when you look at the 400-foot perimeter around this site, you've got a lot of multifamily there, and you have some single family there too. The reason that I'm pointing this out is that in some of the meetings we've had, there has been a suggestion that we might be changing the character of the community by introducing townhomes in an area that is predominantly single family. Well, just by looking at the notices that went out and how many went to multifamily, 193, and how many went to single family, 72, you can see that there is already a lot of multifamily in this area. And I'll have another graphic in a moment to show that. So the neighborhood meetings, what we did, we had sign-up sheets. People would come in, give their name, their address. And so what we did is we plotted on a map of folks that came to the various meetings. If it's a blue dot, it means they came to 2 or more meetings. We had 4 total. If it's a red dot, they came to 1 meeting. And so you see our site in the red outline, and then you see the dots for the folks in the area that attended meetings. Now this is showing by household. We had certain categories where a husband and wife came, or 2 people living in the same home. When they gave the address, we zeroed in on the address. So what I'm going to do in the next few slides is, as we had these neighborhood meetings, there were certain issues brought up. So we're going to show you the issue, and then we're going to tell you what we tried to do to address it. So the first, and they're not in any particular order, other than I think the things that were having in the beginning were things that a lot of people talked about. A lot of people talked about traffic, and a lot of people talked about speeding. So as I mentioned, we did the 2 traffic analyses, one in September and one in October, both of which showed that 40th Avenue operates at a better than acceptable level of service and will continue to do so even after the project is built. And then the question about speeding. Now keep in mind, this speeding is happening today. We're not building anything yet, not there yet, but it's happening today. So it's an existing problem that we were asked to look into to see if we could come up with a solution. So what we did, we had our traffic engineer who did the traffic analysis, Tom Hall, who's here with us tonight. By the way, Tom's here, and some of our other design professionals are here if you have questions that I can't answer. So a lot of what we heard was, at the intersection of 54th Court, 40th Avenue, there was a need to put something in to slow people down. So I asked Mr. Hall to go meet with the folks at the MPO and at the Broward County Traffic Engineering Division. Because as you know, or as I'm sure you've heard, the MPO and the county are looking at making improvements along 40th. Bike lanes, sidewalks, paving, etc. So we said to them, if we were willing to pay for a traffic circle, a roundabout, whatever terminology you want to use, at that intersection, is that something that could be approved? They said it is. Now, I want to point out that the section of the draft resolution that Ms. LaJoy read to you earlier, we are making an absolute commitment that we will build this roundabout. They're not saying, hearkening back to another project we had near Griffin Road last year where there was, we'll build it if we can get it approved. That's not what we put here. We said we will build it. We've checked the right-of-way. It fits within the right-of-way. Talked to the county. County has indicated that this is something that can be done. So we have agreed to make it a condition of approval that if you approve this project, that before we get to that 25th unit, a building permit for the 25th unit, we will have the plan approved. Before we get to the CO for the 25th home, we will have the roundabout built. And this plan is showing you basically how it would work. And I know we've all seen roundabouts. They're more common at a 4-way intersection than they are at a 3-way intersection, but they're actually even a little easier to work when it's a 3-way intersection, because obviously you have cars coming from 3 locations instead of 4. So we have made that commitment. That was in the language that Mr. Joy read earlier. And we've talked with your staff and your attorneys about what we've proposed to do. The first 2 are the same, traffic and speeding. Then also a lot of discussion about, are we changing the character of the neighborhood? Are we introducing multifamily where it does not exist? So we produced this map. So this map is showing you all of the multifamily projects either already on the ground or approved along the 40th Avenue corridor today. And you see they're 1 through 7. 7 is the northern portion of our property, the 25 units that were approved in 2015. 1 through 6 are all existing communities that are in the ground today. And I think one of the important things to look at is the last column in that table, which gives you the number of dwelling units per acre. So our plan is for 12 units per acre. You notice that all of the other developments on this list are 12 units per acre or higher. Only only number 2, the villas at Okamic, are 12 units per acre, which is the same as us. All the others vary between 14, 18, 19, 21, and 25 units per acre. So I submit to you that we are not changing the character of the neighborhood. We are building something that is consistent with what's around us. And even though it is townhomes, it is the lowest density of anything on this portion of the map. At one point, we had another site to our south that was on Sterling Road, and we were advised that was in the city of Hollywood, not in the city of Dania Beach. So even though it's close to us, we took it off the map because it's in Hollywood, not in Dania Beach. So all of these are Dania Beach developments. The next thing was the discussion about the density. Are we, again, adding density? And I'm really have to just go back to the previous slide where we showed you what the densities are in the area and what our proposal is. In addition to the 7 developments that I showed in the previous slides, the properties to our north, so the blue area here is the northern portion of our property that's already zoned PRD1, already has approved site townhomes. That's the area in blue. The area in red are 3 vacant properties that are north of us that would, when they're built, could be built at a density of 10 units. So even though those are vacant, they do have zoning that would allow townhomes as well. Next, prices and property values. So we've been looking at the sales in the area of all types of homes, and so in the last 12 months, there have been 21 sales or listings in the area. The highest price of a home that sold was $900,000. The lowest price was $213,000, and the average price was $414,000 and change. Our units are going to sell between $350,000 and $450,000. They're right in the same range as everything that's going on around. So there was questions about what will we do to property values. Generally, what you see when you build new housing in an existing neighborhood, as long as the prices are consistent with the existing prices or even higher than the existing prices, they tend to pull up prices, not depress them. So we did look at what's been selling in the area and looked at our numbers to see that we fit right within that frame. There was also concerns about, will these become rentals? So what we've said, we are going to have a homeowners association, just like any new residential gated community that's for sale would have. The homeowners association will have restrictions on rentals, and generally what those restrictions are is that anyone who rents a unit, the lease must be at least 1 year. You have seasonal rentals, you have part-time, so it's someone living there full-time. Now, all of these units are for sale, but like in any other homeowners association, if someone buys a house, single-family home, a townhome, whatever it may be, and they decide to rent it, the homeowners association wants to have rules in place that restrict their ability to rent it to only specific situations. So we have agreed to include that in our homeowners association document. Also, it is a gated community. The architect who's designed it has won a number of awards in the area for his work. It will be done very well. The units match what we had proposed in 2015 in terms of the style and the architecture and the feel and the sizes. I do want to point out the setbacks now for a minute. So we have 40th Avenue along the right-hand side. So you notice that the only place where we have the minimum setback of 25 feet is our clubhouse. And again, the clubhouse is the size of a single-family home. Our residential building here is set back 114 feet off the road. Our residential buildings here in the middle are set back 145 feet off the road. You see the tree preservation area in the middle, and then even here we're set back 35 feet off the road, where 25 would be the normal code requirement. And then obviously all these buildings in the back are multiples of the distances you see from 40th Avenue. The reason I think this is important is as you're driving along 40th Avenue next to this property, what will you see? Will you see a bunch of buildings up on the road? No, you will not. Our closest one, as I said, is a clubhouse that's the size of a single-family home. Even this townhome building, the end of the building faces 40th. It's the short end. Obviously, look how long it is in this direction and how short it is in this direction. So the idea as you're driving along 40th, you're not looking at a bunch of buildings. You're looking at landscaping with residential behind it. This is just another diagram that we're showing. If you're driving along 40th Avenue, this is us. This is what you will see with our landscaping and our fencing. It will be a very attractive vista as you're driving along 40th in order to try to fit in as well as we can with the neighborhood. Another picture of the main entrance coming off of 40th, and you see that little landscape island in the middle, and you see the trees surrounding it, and you can see the buildings in the background. You're looking underneath the canopy of the trees. So we believe that we have addressed all of the issues that we can. Now, there is one issue that has come up. The people have said, we just want you to go away. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't just go away. So we think we've addressed the traffic by showing that the acceptable level of service that exists on the property today and will continue to do so after we build. We think we've addressed an existing speeding problem without us even having built our development by putting in that traffic circle at that major intersection. We've shown that there's other multifamily developments in the area at the same density as ours and higher than ours. Only one is at the same as us. The other 6 are higher. And then the other 5 are higher, sorry. And the other thing is showing where the density is and where it exists in the area. We believe we've addressed the property values by showing what the existing sales prices have been and what our sales prices are going to be. And then in terms of the look of the area along 40th, by moving the building back, by having a lot of trees in the front, we believe we've addressed that as well. Now, we know that the MPO is looking at improvements on 40th Avenue. When we initially looked at the traffic circle, we said, well, maybe we'll just write a check and they'll build it. And in talking to your staff, they said, now, what if they don't build it? What if it takes too long for them? You guys just need to go ahead. And so we agreed we would. And that's why we checked with the county to verify that it can be built, can be permitted, right of way is there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And at the end of the public comment period, I'd like the opportunity to respond as appropriate. Thank you.
Commissioner Brandemarty.
Yeah. Dennis, that was a nice presentation. Dennis, I noticed that roundabout.
Yes.
Okay. You said that it's a 3 road off there, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen, oh, good, okay, thank you. I've seen a big problem with roundabouts when there's 4 roads off there for our ambulance and fire trucks. Have you got room there?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, the turning radius will be sufficient to accommodate large vehicles like buses, trucks, fire trucks, etc.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I think I was one that asked, how many homes are in that radius? Because I know that the homes in this area are more spread out than others, and I know within that radius there are a lot of apartment complexes there, but that is to the north. But in that area of things, in all of the notices that you sent out, correct? How many homes are in the area that are the notices like all number 6 who are, the most of them are not homeowners?
Well, let me go to another map that I think will make it easier to show, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
So let's just use this one, for example. So you see the red a rectangle with a little piece off the bottom. So what happens is everyone within 400 feet of
Correct.
that red rectangle received a notice.
Correct.
And when you look at this map, you can kind of see the single-family lots, and then you can see the multifamily a little bit too, but I'll come back. So 400 feet around this site was the 217 notices, and the additional 50 were people that came to a meeting that might not have been. All
Would the
right?
notices go north of Southwest 54th Court?
Sure.
Because that's where, okay, because
They went
that's
nor-
what I'm saying.
They
That's
went
where
north,
most of the
south,
apartments
east,
are.
and west of this property in
Okay.
equal distances. So if we go back to this map, you're going to see that number 1, for example, would have been too far away.
Correct.
To get a notice. Number 2 may have been close enough, or portions of number 2.
Correct.
But the same thing in all directions. So there were 193 notices that went to multifamily residences. There were 72 that went to single-family residences. There were 2 that went to city.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna allow the public to speak. We
All
don't
right.
have any
Thank
other.
you very much.
Thank you. Can you cut the lights on, please, Luis? Thank you. This is the public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this after I call all these, you're welcome to speak on this. You will have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Rosalind M. Hodges.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've lived at 3920 Southwest 56th Street for 34 years.
Name.
Louder?
Your name as well.
My name is Marjorie Hodges. I've attended a zoning meeting, a commission meeting, and a developers meeting regarding this project. The new development will be just a few hundred feet from where I live. I want to speak specifically to the landscape plan because at the last developer meeting I did request some information, but I want to make a comment about the density again. This will be the first high density south of 54th Court towards Sterling Road along the 40th Avenue corridor. I also want to say that my experience with roundabouts in this area is not a positive one. It seems many people don't know how to drive in those roundabouts, and this is a high traffic area to put a roundabout. Could be very unsafe. At the last development meeting, I did request a landscape inventory of both parts of the property. I did receive that. I have reviewed it. One of my neighbors has actually counted the items on it. I believe there's a discrepancy between what Mr. Mealy just told us about the amount of foliage that will be removed and the amount of foliage that will be left. I don't know if you all have that landscaping plan here to look at. I know it was available in the city hall somewhere, so I hope you do have it available to look at. I hope you've all taken a look at it and actually see the numbers they're talking about removing. A lot is being removed to accommodate this development. I hope you will consider the environmental impact of the removal of this foliage. Houston is a recent sad example of what can happen when there is overdevelopment and the removal of landscaped areas and the replacement with hardscape. This is very important to realize. Taking away all of that landscape and putting down all that concrete will have an extreme effect on drainage. I hope you will study the proposed site plan and disposition landscape plan for the already approved rezoning area and for the area considered to be under rezoning. I ask you to reject the rezoning for 5501 and 5525 of Southwest 40th Avenue to protect the landscape in that area. Development of single-family homes there at the already allowed zoning numbers will necessitate much less destruction of the landscape. Thank you for taking care of Dania, the residents, and its environment.
Thank you. Megan Emery. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Megan Emery. I live at 3839 Southwest 56th Street. I believe it was the November meeting where Commissioner Grace and Commissioner Brenda Marty recommended that the residents, the homeowners, work towards a solution that we can all be satisfied with. And so I attended the next developers meeting, the neighborhood meeting, and with that in mind. And I made a couple of suggestions. Still, I would like to see the density reduced. That has not changed since that meeting in November. It's still at 60. I also recommended or suggested that the homes, the units that are around in the L shape around Dennis's property, he's concerned about these 2-story I'm sorry for speaking for you. Two-story properties, being able to look into his property, into his home, and all that, and he's concerned about his privacy. I suggested, why not make those one-story, allow him some more privacy. I did not hear that addressed in Mr. Mealy's comments tonight. As far as the people who attended and the numbers Mr. Mealy offered, there were a lot of notices sent to multifamily units. A lot of times we can agree, I think, that those are occupied by renters and they have less of a vested interest. He said that I think it was 17 of the 72 homeowners that were notified, attended the meeting, and by my math, that's 23%. I think that's pretty good. Also, I'm not in real estate. I don't know exactly how it works, but if the average price that he suggested of homes sold in our area is $400,000 and their sale price is $300,000, I don't think that's helping the average to go up and improve our property value. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin Drummond. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Colin Drummond, 3901 Southwest 56th Court. Okay. I'm a little confused by this situation because we talk about 267 notices haven't been sent out.
Could you speak closer in the mic? I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. I've just been told there were 267 notices been sent out. I can only assume they were all sent north of 54th Court because I've never received a single notice on this, and I'm in 56th Court. And many of my neighbours have never received anything. The reason I'm a little red dot on your map is because one of my neighbours in the subsequent street let me know this was going on. So I'm very apprehensive about the way this has been handled. That's the first. Okay. Regarding traffic, I mean, obviously we can talk about averages and we can talk about periods and that sort of thing, but the reality of it is that road is already highly congested, particularly during the school time. And I think this will increase the danger to the children and others using Southwest 40th Avenue. Okay. Regarding the trees, 529 minus 28 plus 10. Right? They're paying for 10 or replacing 10. So there's a deficiency of 18, and they're paying 31,000 for that deficiency, I believe. That's not normally. I think if the standard homeowner knocked down one of these trees, he'd be charged about 10 grand each. So I don't understand quite why 31,000 is the number. Okay, moving on to the density. The density originally was about 41. Now I know there's been rezoning on the north side, but as I didn't get notices about that either in 15, I'm a little bit apprehensive about that, because in total you're going from 41 to 60. And this, I think, is creating a real problem in terms of the quality around that area. Now, given that they seem to have segregated north from south, I'm looking clearly at south, which is where I live. But I think by averaging out across the north and the south zones like that, I think it's misleading the situation. Okay? Because as it pointed out, there are no multi-units on the south side after 54th Court. Regarding average pricing, it's a great thing to talk about what the prices are at the moment, but they haven't started construction, and they haven't started that project, which is going to take 2 years to complete. So I think this will have an adverse effect on prices, and I think discussing the numbers now is erroneous, quite frankly, and if not misleading. Anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. Ronald Gossett. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
It is Ronald Gossett at 3800 Southwest 56th Street in Dania Beach. I've lived there for 34 years. I'm a 66-year-old native of Hollywood. I've lived here in Broward County all of my life except for 7 years in Gainesville. I'm opposed to this development, not because I'm opposed to development. I sent each of you a letter so you would know my background, a little bit about it. What I didn't say in the letter is that my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather were all builders. So I'm not by nature opposed to development. What I am opposed to is development for development's sake that fundamentally changes the character of my neighborhood. I built a house 34 years ago in a selected neighborhood, and that neighborhood has grown around me, has been very nice. If you look at that map, you'll see that all the high-density, multi-unit residents are north of 54th Court. That's a very significant dividing line in our neighborhood. There is nothing south of 54th Court until you get to Sterling Road. They're all single-family homes. And there's no reason for this property that consists of single-family homes to now be developed with high-density properties. Each of you occupying those chairs does a very significant work, as did all of the people that were before you in those chairs. I pulled down from your website the Dania Comprehensive Land Plan. I noticed that as of the last amendment to it, none of you were serving in your present capacities except Mr. Ansbro, who did a great job writing this, approving it. And I read through that Dania Comprehensive Land Plan to find what need of the city is being met by this proposed development. Pretty long reading, several hundred pages, and there's not one single sentence in that land plan that is met by this development. There's no need that is expressed in that land plan that is met here. I did find something a little unusual. That is in their application. You have a city ordinance, again, passed by those that came before you, that requires an applicant for a zoning change to provide you with certain information. That is the zoning ordinance, paragraph E of section 105-220. Subparagraph 10 of that ordinance asks for the developer to state, the site development plan shall be designed to be compatible with existing and conforming development. Take a look at that map. It's not.
Mr. Casa, you're going to have to wrap it up.
I will, thank you.
Thank you.
As a lawyer, I'm used to be giving equal time to my opposition, but I understand that I've got 3 minutes. And the proposed development in the area surrounding the project is supposed to be compatible with that. Their response, which your staff accepted and noted, was God's not making any more land in Dania Beach. What they said was, with diminishing land available in South Florida, this townhouse development will, they left out the word be, an asset to the community. It is not an asset to my community. I would not, if I were sitting in your chair, change the character of your neighborhood. I would request you not change the character of my neighborhood.
Thank you. Susan Saver. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Susan Saver. I live at 5551 Southwest 40th Avenue. First of all, the notices that were sent to us, he said it was over 100, 200. There, you can receive a list of that, and it's not in the area. There's places in Hollywood, Maryland, different places on that list. Okay? It's not in our area. There may be a few homes in that area, but the list is not all that area. Because I looked at the list, and Bob Banks can verify he has a copy at home. But get a list and look at the list and see where the addresses were. Hollywood, Hallandale, okay? So be aware, that's where these letters went to. Second of all, the density of the area. In 2015, we were never notified about what happened. and we've been there for 20 years, okay? And you approved 25 units. It's 2.6 acres, okay? Now this property they acquired is 2.7 acres. Why would you want to put 35 more places there on that much land? Why approve 25 and now you want to go 35? It's not fair. Okay? It's approved for 34. Okay? You can go 40 or 50. Why go 60? It's just too many, it's too dense. Okay? I received 2 pages. I will bring this up to you. One is the North Tree Inventory. I had to get a microscope to look at it. Okay? Just on the north lot, 87 trees were removed. Of those trees, 20 of them were live oaks. The remaining trees were 22. Okay? On the south side, okay, 136 trees were removed. 39 trees were live oaks on the south side. So just on these 2 pages, I must not have had all the pages available to me. I counted 329 trees. Out of them, 226 were removed. Okay? 59 were live oaks. So there is a discrepancy. And I'd like to know if you live in an oak hammock, okay? The removal of these trees are changing the entire character of the area, okay? That's why I'm not very happy with this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Dennis McGowan. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3
My name is Dennis McGowan. I live at 5551 Southwest 40th Avenue, Dania Beach. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I had a couple of facts here. Mr. Maley just mentioned that they're going to leave a lot of trees along 40th Avenue so that people don't have to look at the buildings. We live just south. Our property borders theirs. We have 437 feet of property. They're going to build 21 townhomes bordering our property, which 16 of them are going to be 15 feet away from our property line. I'd like to know what they're going to do so that we don't have to look at all those buildings, as he stated. Another one concern I had is I know that property next to us at 5525 was operated as a landscape and nursery for many, many years. And they've sprayed pesticides, fertilizers, whatever. And I know there's several water wells that are drilled on that property. And I'm concerned if they come in there, start knocking those wells over, you're going to create some pollution into the groundwater. So those wells, if they do this, they need to be properly abandoned and sealed. We are very much against this development. I'd like to see it stay single family. I'm not against development, but I'm against this high density project that borders our property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robert Banks. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Robert Banks, 3831 Southwest 56th Street, Florida. We have no choice but to accept the fact that there are 39 units approved for this project, even if the commission chose to say no. The applicant is asking for 60 units, 21 units more. In our last meeting with the developer, we attempted to bring up compromise solutions, one of which was, what about single-family, single-story houses on the southern border to transition into the existing single-family, which I believe Commissioner Salvino brought up in the last commission meeting where this was discussed, which would bring the density down somewhat. They would have more than 39, maybe less, but less than 60, and there would be a pathway or transition of single-family homes. I work for developers, as a developer, and around developers 40 years, commercial development. Developers don't buy properties and close on those properties without knowing they can make money based on the current unit allotments. 39 units, they closed on both properties. I believe they can make money with 39 units, let alone something between 39 and 60. Developers, when they purchase a property where they're needing more permissions to make money, they tie up the property with a long-term contract. They don't close. You can't get your partners and your equity providers to put up the money unless you can show them a pro forma, or you can make money without additional approval. So I'm saying this because I know the commission is sensitive to bringing good development to Dania Beach, and they don't want to discourage reliable developers from coming here. So I don't think a compromised choice is going to seriously hurt this project or hurt profitability.
Thank you. David Sorg. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is David Sorg. I reside at 3920 Southwest 56th Court for the last 20 years. I just want for the record, I have never received any notice of any meeting. 56th Court, no, right around the corner from where it's all happened. I'm here for the third time this evening to vote my concern of changing of the zoning of this development, of this property, to accommodate 60 townhomes. Of the greatest concern to my family and many of my neighbors is the increase in density we've all been talking about tonight, and the fact that 40th Avenue is already an extremely busy pass-through street between Sterling and Griffin. And you've heard from others that the peak driving time causes the traffic to back up tremendously cars at times, running from Sterling back up all the way to Griffin, making it very difficult or virtually impossible for the residents to access on 40th Avenue. In the mornings on 40th Avenue, you'll find hundreds of young children walking or riding their bikes to Sterling Elementary or the high school. With the addition of the bike lanes that Broward County is going to be installing over the course of the next 3 years in that beautification program, and the additional sidewalks are only bringing more kids into the street, it sounds like, knowing what traditional bike paths is like. So even with the roundabout, I'm not sure how bike paths are working with that, but it's something that people should consider. Talking about all these additional homes being put in, and additional traffic. And again, the density we're talking about, what will happen when this sort of pass from where that development is all the way south to Sterling, setting the precedent for all that development density. And I think that's our biggest concern. So I'm asking you, and a lot of my neighbors are asking you that to keep the existing zoning, not say to stop the development entirely, not ruin what could be kept a very nice area to live in, and come to be.
Thank you. Monica Sorg. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Monica Sorg, 3920 Southwest 56th Court. My husband was the gentleman before. Basically, I agree with everything that he said. And one thing that I want to make clear, we have never said to the builders, go away. The only thing that we have asked them is to please build less houses. And the other things that I had to say also was about that they were talking about all the townhouses and everything that they were in the neighborhood. But as the two gentlemen before me said, they are not in an area. They're like north of 54th Court, not south of 54th Court. So the other concern that I have is that if you guys change the zoning for this lot, there is quite a few more lots going south to Sterling Road. So what's going to say that they're not going to purchase those lots, and they're going to come to you guys, and they're going to say, okay, so they got it, we want to do it too. So we're like very concerned about the changes on the neighborhood and all the other lots that will be south of this particular one. And the other one that I wanted to bring about the traffic on 40th Avenue and see if maybe it can be solved a little bit better by prolonging the time of the light on Sterling Road and 40th Avenue at the peak time, so that the traffic can move a little bit longer on 40th Avenue, like in the morning at the school time and maybe 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon when people are coming to work. If that light can be prolonged, I don't know, a few more seconds, I think that will help us a lot with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Stevens, I'm sorry. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Excuse me? Oh, sorry.
Lisa Stevens, 3860 Southwest 56th Court, Dania Beach.
Thank you.
My position as my neighbors hasn't changed since last time I was here, and they brought up very good points. One thing that really jumped out at me, and I'm going to say it again because I said it before, when I built my house 14 years ago, I had to move 3 trees to the tune of $25,000. So I'm kind of curious to see what they paid to move all their trees accurately. I also feel that, I said it before and I'll say it again, I'm not opposed to development. It happens everywhere. I don't think it's a bad thing. But I do think that the traffic report cannot possibly be accurate. And I'd really like to see that, because if you have 60 townhomes coming in, you got to figure you're going to have at least 120 plus cars. I said again before, it takes me, when I turn down to go to my house at about 4:45, I wait 17 minutes to turn into my residence. That's crazy. And I don't think roundabouts are a good thing either. And not only the kids going to Sterling and the high school, there's also Maimonides School. And there's a lot of students there, and people are waiting in line to pick up their children, and then they turn, 90% of them, going to the south, which also creates terrible traffic. So I'm in agreement the way it originally was. I'm not in agreement with this. I realize you have to make that decision, and you're supposed to do what's, I guess, best for everybody, whether it's the city or the people. But for me, I think the people matter most, the residents. And I know it's difficult for you guys, but it's, we're coming here. And I will also say I never received one notice. So I think everybody north of, going south of, I'm calling it Lucky Street, I don't think any of us ever received any notices, and we're the single family homes going in that direction. So that's how I feel, and I think that it's a lot of information, because first you have to listen to somebody for 45 minutes and then each of us for 3 minutes. But I think that the commission, everybody involved, really needs to take into consideration, as well as the developer, how the residents feel. And somebody that knows how to do a traffic report really needs to be out there doing it at the proper times. Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis Mahoney. I'm sorry. I'm butchering your name, sir. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm Dennis Maroney, 3951 Southwest 56th Court. Just to mention the notices again, I was never notified that the meeting that was supposed to be in December was canceled. And then we kind of scurried to find out what was happening, and then came here and was told that it was going to be in January. But again, we were never sent a notice for this meeting tonight. So I'm sure many people who would be here are not here tonight. I've received notices on the meetings that the developer had and attended them. The first meeting that was in this chamber, and then the first reading where where there was a vote of 2 against and 3 for. But after that, I've received no other notices. I live on the south portion of Southwest 40th, where all the single-family homes are. That's a very unique oak hammock, completely different than the north side. And we're not a large community. We can't pack these chambers with lots of people because we're a very small neighborhood. So we have to look to you, the City Commission, in order to do the right thing and make sure that our neighborhood grows in an orderly manner. This development is way over density. You can see that by just looking at the site plans here. We want to make sure that the development is compatible. We want to make sure that that there is a transition from high density to low density, and we want to make sure that good traffic flow is in everyone's interest. They talk about the amount of cars, but really the big problem with traffic is the stacking that takes place in the morning, in the afternoon, and then late at 5 o'clock with traffic. I urge you to look closely at Oakblade's site plan and vote no to the petitioner's first proposal of planned residential development 1 zoning and the assessment of 21 additional flex units, allowing a density of 60 townhome units. I am confident that the developer will resubmit the site with a site plan more compatible with the surroundings. This will be the first major development of the southwest side of Southwest 40th Avenue and Southwest 54th Court, and will set the standard for future development. We should strive to make sure the future Danians don't look back and say that we were lacking in common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak for or against this? Wait, you already spoke. I'm going to let the people who haven't spoke, because we'll be here all night. Oh, wait, did you speak on this? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You can speak next.
Hi, my name is Andy Palmer. I live at 3930 Southwest 56th Street. And my children attend Maimonides, which is just a few blocks to the north. And the gentleman said that he did a traffic study. I know the first one was because of the hurricane, so that kind of disqualified. And then he said he did another one in October. But what he fails to mention is that the majority of October was the school vacations for Maimonides. So I'm not sure that that traffic study gives you an accurate picture of what's going on. I live 2 blocks away from my children's school, and if I do there are 3 carpools. There's a 3:30 carpool, 4:30, and 5:30 carpool. It can take me about 15 to 20 minutes to get to my children's school at 5:30 in the afternoon. It's easier for me to walk. So it's become really bad. The other thing is that a gentleman coming down the road, down 40th Avenue, came to an abrupt halt. He looked up, he saw that the traffic was backed up so far, he wasn't expecting to stop, and so he swerved from all across the road and went right through my fence and into my backyard and through my neighbor's fence, going right through a tree. My children were playing 10 foot away from them. That is a big problem when it comes to traffic. And you say, okay, so in the morning and the afternoon you'll have to wait a little. People are not expecting to come to an abrupt halt when you're driving at, any time of day. You expect when there's a light that you're going to slow down. So it's a huge danger. There are a lot of kids walking to and from. There are buses, and you have to stop for the buses, the appropriate distance, and it causes a lot of problems. Traffic is going to be bedlam, and you can't have a traffic study done at times that suit you to skew your perspective as to when, what the real traffic situation is. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I thought you were a part of this group that's spoken before. Please state don't go too fast. Please state your name and address for the record.
Christine Douglas, 4665 Southwest 38th Terrace. I'm very familiar with that area, and I'm thinking of just brainstorming, listening to everybody. If they have the entrance and exit on 40th, why can't they just redo the whole entrance and exit and move it out to 441 so they can't get into that development from 40th Avenue? They just shoot it all the way out to 441, so they have to go in from 441 to that development. Because I know that on that road, if you have an extra 3 cars per unit then the visitors, and you got all the traffic, people don't pay attention when they're driving and they're texting, kids are going to get hit, cars are going to go into people's property. So just reroute that entrance and exit, cut back on the home.
Thank you. Mr. Mealy?
Again, Dennis Mealy, 200 East Broward Boulevard. I just want to address some of the comments we just heard. First of all, as to the notice, the city code dictates 400-foot perimeter, whatever the distance is, it goes all around the property, north, south, east, and west. Notices are the same as what you do for all of your other developments in the city. That's not something we do. Now, what we did do when we had our neighborhood meetings, we took your notice list and we used it, and we expanded on that by also including anyone who had come to a previous city commission meeting and given their name and address. So I can't speak to why someone didn't get notices other than the city code did not provide for them to get notices. Second, we've been looking at the tree disposition plan, and what I outlined at the beginning of my presentation is exactly what that plan shows. Now, there are trees on a site that are categorized as poor that you have to remove. So if you look at the tree disposition list, you will see a list for a tree that says poor next to it. You're required to take it down. So maybe that's where the numbers are coming from. Houston, Texas is well known as a city in this country that does not have zoning. I don't think we can compare what we do here to Houston, Texas. In terms of the drainage, it's been reviewed by your engineers. It's going to be reviewed by the South Florida Water Management District and the Broward County EPD. If we don't meet the drainage requirements, we will not be allowed to build here. There was a question about wells. If there's wells on a site, water wells that might have been used for irrigation or for other things, you have to remove them, you have to cap them. Those are requirements of the Broward County Environmental Protection Department, and we will follow them. We did environmental audits on the property before we purchased them. Phase 1 and Phase 2, there is no contamination on this property. The sales prices of these units are between $350,000 and $450,000. They were right in the ballpark of what's happening around us. In fact, when you look at the price per square foot, which is generally the way realtors measure these things, we're above that average significantly. The traffic study. Traffic study was done by Tom Hall. Tom Hall is here with us tonight. He's been in the traffic study business for 44 years. He worked at the FDOT for 15 years. The study was reviewed both times by your city engineer, who said that it met the requirements. He concurred with the study results. We did them at the right time of the day. We did them Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It was not during the Jewish holidays. We did not pick a time when people would not be out traveling. And we looked at the traffic for every hour of the day, 24 hours of the day, because we know 24 hours each day. And so we looked at those hours to know that, yes, when people are dropping off kids at school or picking them up, it's going to be higher. But for every hour of the day, it was an acceptable level of service C. Not just some time we picked, all day long, 24 hours.
Ma'am, you can't talk from the audience.
There was a statement that we're changing the character of the neighborhood. There are 3 lots north of us, 10 units per acre. Whether they exist that way or not now, they're zoned that way. That can be developed with townhomes. The northern portion of our property, already approved for townhomes, site plan still in effect. So we're not changing the character of the neighborhood, we're blending with it. In terms of the section of the land plan that was cited, we have been deemed compatible with what's around us. Just when you look at these maps and you look at the notices and you see how many went to multifamily and how many went to single family, it is clear that we are compatible with what's around us. The notice list. The way notices are done for every city is you go from the property appraiser's website and you send the notice to the address of record. So I mentioned earlier 267 notices. 2 of those went to city staff, so I'll take those out. So that's 265 notices. As you were having the public comment period, I went through that notice list and checked all the addresses. So of the 265, I have it here. Of the 265, there's 163 in Dania Beach. Now, interestingly enough, 25 of those 163, if you look at the mailing address in the property appraiser's website, it says Fort Lauderdale. Because prior to the annexation of this area, it was Fort Lauderdale. Yes. But when you see the addresses, they're clearly Dania Beach addresses. So 163 of the 265 here in Dania Beach, multifamily and single family. Sure, there are others that are owned by someone who has an address in Hollywood or in Aventura or Plantation, because the property owner of record is not in Dania. Maybe that's someone who has an income property and they're renting it to somebody else. But the overwhelming majority of these notices went to Dania Beach residents. Check and see if I have anything else I want to add. There was a question about the timing of the traffic signal at Sterling Road and 40th Avenue. We are going to be working with Broward County Traffic Engineering anyway on the design and permitting of this roundabout. We are certainly willing to talk to them also about whether adjustments can be made in the signal timing so that at certain hours of the day, 40th Avenue can have more green time. And that's something that we will undertake. I don't know what they'll say, but we will go talk to them about it. We'll report back to your city engineer about it, and if they're willing to make changes, we obviously will help them in that process. This is my client, Joel Berry. Joel, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I, Joel Berry, for the developer, 20900 Northeast 30th Avenue, Aventura. Just wanted to add what Danny said, and in response to most of the neighbors' concerns, we believe that we have approached all of the neighbors' concerns in a way. I know, traffic, we all complain about traffic. It's something that we can't do anything about it. Speeding, it's going to happen with or without us. It's something that cannot be blamed to the project, and we just ask of you that you see these objectively. And again, we understand the neighbors' concerns. We are also neighbors somewhere else, but in reality, we're not changing the density in the area. The density is already there, as Dennis pointed out. We have addressed in good faith most of the neighbors' concerns. So this is not about traffic. Traffic, we've shown a study. This is not about speeding. Might be about speeding, it's just not our fault, but we've volunteered to fund and to construct and to build and to make that contingent to our approval, the construction of this roundabout. So we're trying to help as much as possible. It's not about the density, as I said, the density is there. There are plenty of multifamily developments. Even south of 54th, as Dennis pointed out, we have the 3 lots north of us, which are already zoned for 10 units per acre. So the fact that there's not 10 units per acre built right now, that's beyond the point. It's a matter of time. There will be 10 units per acre at some point. Those are 1.5 acres that will have 15 units at some point in time. And then we have our own north parcel, which is already zoned and entitled for 25 units. So the density is already there. Not only that, the city has already accounted for this. And you guys brought new sewer lines and new pipes, and you made the road nicer and prettier because you are already, you know already that that there's going to be more development in the area. So you are taking that into consideration. So again, we have addressed all of the neighbors' concerns in some way, and it's a matter of looking at this objectively. To my point. Thank you very much.
Hey, I forgot one thing very quickly. One of the speakers suggested putting our access out to 441. There's no right-of-way between us and 441. It's all private property, so we can't put a road. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion from the dais? Yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Salvino.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me all right? Some of the, listening to everything here, and I'm not sure I'm going to be on the number with all this. Traffic is a problem everywhere.
Is your mic on?
Can you hear me?
Is it on?
Yeah, it's switched on. Hello, testing.
Yep, it's on now.
Yeah, it's okay.
My lights never work since I've been up here. Traffic is a problem everywhere we go, and I don't believe that the traffic is the main issue out there, but it does have a little bit of a situation. One of the things that bothers me about this is, you know, we gave the approval in 2015 for this project, and nothing again started. I get a little bit frustrated with giving out these approvals and now the project's not getting started. Whether they have plans for future purchases or not is a big issue to me, because if you're going to start with 25 units, you should have started them. You could have showed them what it looked like, and there may be less of an objection here. Secondly, I'm not real happy about giving all of our flex units to one developer. There's a lot of units that are going to be out there being built, and maybe another developer would like to use some of those flex units. Once these are all gone, they're gone. You know, just doing a little bit of calculating, you know, listening to Mr. Mealy on the dollars, the townhouses are between 350 and 450. So let's take an average, as the words that come out, of 400,000. And then he also mentioned the houses out there were sold for 900,000. If you take and analyze, is that right, Dennis? That was the highest. But these are brand new houses. Those are the old houses that are getting sold for 900,000. So you put a brand new house, Dade County approved, and all the new codes and new windows, it's got to be worth it. And I know a lot of people out there that have $1 million homes. So if you just took it, let's just say 900, it could be $1 million, could be $1.1 million, but 900,000, you're at $12 million in your project, or 120 million. I can't add that high, versus 14, 140 million or whatever it is. But the thing is, you're off by a little bit. So, you know, I mean, it's not a lot to it is a lot in a way, but it's not a lot to offer, I guess, a compromise to the homeowners that are out there. You know, you can maybe readjust this and maybe put some more of the townhouses in a little area that's not affecting directly to some of the homes there, and still build some single-family homes out there. I'm just not comfortable with the way the program is, and I just don't like some of the approach that was brought up tonight. So that's my opinion.
Vice Mayor.
I'll tell you later.
Around the holidays, I went out there a couple times. I drove around, I walked around, I went in the daytime, I went at nighttime, I went during peak hours, off hours, so I'm kind of familiar with the area. But, you know, as Marco said, the original first 25 permitted back in 2015 have never been started. Is that correct? Okay, with the new parcel, with the additional 14 or 25, is there, I mean, I like the one suggestion, having been out there and walking around, is there any way that you can transition the newer parcel into the older parcel with some different kind of architecture? Or, I mean, you and Ari and Dennis, to kind of transition that, like what the suggestion was, to like decrease the density just a little. I mean, I like everything else about the project, and I told you that before, but it's the concerns that I hear, and from being out there myself and walking around on a really nice day, it's just like that is a hidden gem of a neighborhood out there that a lot of people don't know about. So what can we do to compromise? What can we do? Where can we go?
Well, first thing I want to mention in terms of the timing issue that's been discussed. The site plan was approved in 2015. My clients then purchased both of these properties. We immediately came into the city. We've been at this for more than a year now. We immediately came into the city and said, we're going to take that piece that's already been approved, we're going to add to it this new piece. So the reason we stopped is to do it all at one time. We could have started on the northern piece. I remember. But if you look at, again, the geography of the site and the limitations on access on 40th Avenue under the county regulations, it would be hard to start on the site and then come back to it. It's all tied together. So
Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Ari Sklar. I'm the architect for the project. My office is at 2310 Hollywood Boulevard.
Thank you.
Just so you all know, I grew up here in South Florida. I'm an architect, maybe one of the few who's been here the whole time. A lot of other architects have come in and out. My father and my uncle are both architects here in South Florida for many, many years. And as an architect, I care about all of my projects. I take the time to design them as best and possible as I can. I pride myself in doing the best project possible for the location. Nothing is slapped. Every project is taken for the special qualities that it has. And this location is very special, as everybody has mentioned. We were the architects. This developer was not the developer when the first 25 units were designed. It was a different developer who didn't understand development as well, or wasn't as experienced or whatever, but he wasn't capable of making the development, and he found this other company to sell it to and develop the project. And I see that they know what they're doing, they're committed, and they're good. It's a good company, and they're good developers. I have seen many companies, and I've been practicing here for many, many years and working with my father and my uncle. This is a very good company, a very good developer. You should be happy that they're in your community and doing a project here. I have to tell you that. Second, so we took the project, we designed the first project. We knew that there were a lot of trees here. I'm very sensitive to the trees. We tried to design the project to maintain as many trees, especially the important live oaks on the property. It's very important. I have 4 live oaks on my property, and I know they're very special. And I care about trees myself. So we designed it. We know that there are neighborhoods around that you can drive, and it's a little bit meandering because of the trees, and we tried to build that into this development, into this design. So you're going to see a lot of features that you'll find in the neighboring community, in the neighboring streets, into the streets and the community that we designed here. We have areas for people to play, to hang out, to walk, and the buildings are designed to be around the canopy of the trees, and they really make a really nice community here. People have said, well, you have two-story townhouses next to single-family homes. But single-family homes are very often 2 stories as well. I do a lot of homes all over, and they're 2 stories. I don't think that that's fair that somebody should say a 2-story building cannot be next to a 1-story building, because it happens all the time. There's 2 stories and 1 stories mixed all together. We really took the time to design this project as beautifully as possible. I think it's going to be a community that everybody can be proud of. It's hidden away. It's going to be a hidden gem as well. People won't know that it's there unless you're going to look for it. So, we built areas to make it a single-family community. Even though they're townhouses, they're going to be nice and comfortable, and they're not crammed in. So if everybody would look at the design and see how it's not the same as other communities in Weston where everything looks the same. I don't like that myself. I like things to look different, and I've tried to build that in here. We're going to we have different features going on. We'll have different colors and materials and things, and it's going to be a very nice development.
I also want to point out that one of the other things that Ari did and that Joel's company has committed to is to build a green development, impact glass, low flow plumbing fixtures, energy efficient appliances, all the things that we can do to make this a green development, which is what we are told we should be doing today. And I think we have to factor that in.
Thank you, Dennis. Vice Mayor?
Dennis, what you just said, I agree with that, because it's the sustainable building practices now, and there's a critical issue of new housing stock in all of Broward County. So I support the project in that way, but isn't there any way that we can just tweak it just a little bit on the newer portion? I mean, go ahead with the 25, the original ones. I mean, Joel and Ari and, I mean,
Well, I
can
don't think we can do that. I mean, are we going to do that right now?
I mean,
Or are we-
what can we do? I mean,
I know that we've already pulled the building back away from the road.
Yeah.
From shown on that site plan. There was one of the gentlemen who lives south of us suggested that we have units that are close to this property. We put additional trees along that southern property.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at this at the same time I'm speaking to you. We've agreed to put additional trees along the southern property line in order to mitigate that. But I don't know what else I can suggest.
So that's no. Okay. Do we have a motion? If there's, are there any other discussion? Huh?
We need to take them separate.
Yes, 3 items. First is the rezoning 9.3, 9.4 the site plan, 9.5 the plat.
Okay. First the rezoning.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
No.
No. Vice Mayor Harris?
yes.
Mayor James?
No.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, next is the site plan.
Do you have a motion?
To approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
No.
Vice Mayor Harris?
No.
Mayor James?
No.
Motion failed.
And lastly, the plat.
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
No.
Vice Mayor Harris?
No.
Mayor James?
No.
Motion failed.
That's interesting. Which one are we on? 5? Okay. They don't look like they're leaving.
9.6 is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the request made by Dennis Mealy, Esquire, of Greenspoon Martyr, PA agent for the property owner Sterling ALYA LLC to rezone property located at 2851 Sterling Road in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached to this ordinance, changing the current zoning classification of the property from RS 6000 single family 6,000 and C2 community business to multifamily 25 dwelling units per acre RM2. Application number RZ 10417, subject to certain restrictions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and further providing for an effective date. First reading of the ordinance.
Okay, we're going to wait till the room clears. Clear it out, Matt. No.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. This application is for a rezoning request for the property at 2851 Sterling Road. It is first reading. There will be a second reading in front of the City Commission at a later date. The existing zoning of the property is residential, single-family, RS 6000, and a small portion of the property is commercially zoned C2. This property is located on Sterling Road. It is the former St. Maurice Catholic Church site, and most recently, the former Memorial Healthcare satellite parking location, which was a temporary use approved by the City Commission. The proposed zoning on the property is multifamily residential and would allow 24 dwelling units per acre. The land use designation that's proposed and had been heard is for irregular residential density of 23.73 units per acre. There are no open code violations on the property. And the public hearing notice was duly advertised, posted a notice pursuant to the land development regulations. The request for rezoning is to go from residential and C2 to the multifamily residential zoning district. As you know, our land development regulations has criteria by which to use as a guide for granting these rezoning requests. They're identified in the staff report, and the applicants provided justification addressing those criteria as well. Several community meetings had occurred between the developer and the neighboring residents. As I said, this is first reading, so a second reading will occur at a later date. And you have seen previous activity on the property. As I stated, the temporary use for the Memorial Healthcare satellite parking was approved November of 2016. In May of 2017 is when the land use amendment was approved in the site. And the Planning and Zoning Board has seen this item multiple times as well. And the applicant is here if you have any questions for them.
Sorry, this is a public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this? Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes. My name is Charlotte Sloboda, 2905 Lakeshore Drive. Wow. This is so different than what you just listened to. Our developer and their attorneys have met many times throughout the last 3 years. They have been most cooperative with us. They have worked with us, and I am just one of 3 residents that represent our community, and for the past 3 years have met with all of these people, the developers and their attorneys, and we cannot tell you how happy and pleased we are to see this project move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any discussion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandemart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor James?
Yes.
Thank you.
9-7, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the H2O site plan SP 9917 and variance request VA 11517 submitted by Fig Tree Holdings LLC for property located at approximately 4632 to 48 Southwest 32nd Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Good evening. This application is for a site plan and variance for the property located on Southwest 32nd Avenue. The zoning of the property is RM1, which is a multifamily residential zoning district. The land use designation is irregular residential, 10 units per acre. There are no open violations on the property. This item was duly noticed and posted pursuant to the land development regulations. This site is actually an assembly of 2 vacant parcels, so total it's a little bit over an acre in size. There are residential homes around the property to the south and the west. To the north is a canal, and to the to the east is a canal, and to the north is a vacant tract of land that has a approved site plan. I think they're getting ready to pull construction permits for that property to the north. So you can see here the aerial photo. They've assembled these 2 parcels for this site plan. The variance that is being requested is regarding the monument sign, and it's specific to the letter height. So they're allowed to have a monument sign, but what's permitted by the code is a maximum letter height of 12 inches, and they're proposing a maximum letter height of 34 inches. And I think the name of the project is H2O. There's only 3 characters, but they're asking for the characters to be larger than the code allows. There are criteria identified in the Land Development Code specific to signage, which is identified in your staff report. The site plan is for the construction of 11 townhomes on the property. Each unit will have 3 bedrooms and a garage. The project includes a community pool for the use of those 11 units. The townhouse structures, the buildings themselves, will be 2 stories and 26 feet tall overall height. There's no dock proposed at this time along the canal. That's not part of the site plan at this point. The city engineer stated that the traffic study that was conducted by Carl B. Peterson, PA, for the project was considered complete and accepted. That's the traffic report that was submitted with the site plan by the applicant. Staff also encouraged the applicant to contact neighbors adjacent to the property, and to date we haven't been notified that that has occurred. But this item did go through the Development Review Committee in September and October. The site plan was reviewed by the Development Review Committee at that time. They've been able to address most of the outstanding comments. There's a few that still remain that are in the staff report and identified as conditions in the resolution as well. And with that, staff's recommending approval of the site plan and variance, provided those DRC comments are conditions of approval as identified in the resolution. And the applicant's here to make a presentation or answer any questions you may have.
Vice Mayor.
The question about the sign face and the monument sign, those letters at H2O, is it backlit channel lettering with like a routed sign face, and what color is it going to be?
It's backlit.
Okay.
Steve Brand, I'm the architect.
Okay.
51,
Yeah, thank you.
5010 North Federal Highway. I mean,
Nice, huh? I like that. Yes.
that's actually a little bit out of perspective, the sign. But the letters on the sign are proposed to be, I think it's 32 inches tall. 12-inch letters are just wouldn't conform with the size of the sign, and you wouldn't be able to see it since we only have 3 letters. If we had a big long name, I think 12 inches would be appropriate. But in this case, just trying to make it visible from the street without having people stop and have to back up and find a place. So it is. I forget what the code said. You have something funny about backlit letters or something, but I believe. You remember what it was?
I kind of know about that because that's what
Right.
we did a couple of years ago.
I believe we
Backlit
were
channel
saying
lettering with a routed out sign face. I think, right, Mark? It glows at night with LED lighting behind it. So
right, backlit.
Yeah, it's not a box
lettering,
sign. It's not. Yeah.
Sorry. The code prohibits a cabinet sign with an internal illumination, but he's proposing that the letters, the characters are attached backlit, so it's not going to be a cabinet.
So each one of the letters are kind of like a free-form individual light.
And back.
Gotcha.
Right, they're set off. So as you can see, we're proposing a rather contemporary 11-unit townhouse complex here. It is a small site. The site next to us is much larger. It's currently under construction for 55 units, I believe. Same density, very traditional architecture. We're trying to do something a little more contemporary, a little more. Each unit is going to be 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, 2-story, pretty straightforward. We have 4 units along the water with a clubhouse and a pool, and then remaining of the units are on the interior of the site. The access is through the middle of the site. Since it is a rather skinny site, there's not a whole lot of room for circulation. We're saddled with the problem of having a large number of royal palms on the site. Unfortunately, most of them are located in the middle of the site. So we've had to mitigate all of the, not all, most of the trees. We've transplanted and relocated many of the trees, as many as we could. We've upgraded to upgraded the size of some of the newer trees coming in to reduce the mitigation. And the mitigation numbers that are shown in the resolution is really off. It's been revised, and we've taken a mitigation number of $270,000 and gotten it down to $70,000. So obviously, we've worked with the landscape department to try to resolve those issues. So this is the water side. 4 units on the water and the clubhouse and the pool. And again, yeah, it is a gated community. There's a fence around the sides, gates and walls in the front, and it has a stacked area in the front for cars.
Commissioner Salvino?
Yeah, you know what you ought to do with that sign?
What's that?
You know what you should do with that sign?
What's that?
You should take and have water flowing over the H.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Is there a pause on this?
I was just making a wisecrack.
I have a couple of questions. So this is how you enter.
Yes.
How do you turn around?
You go down to the end. There's a turnaround at the end of the street.
How wide is it? I mean, has it?
Cul-de-sac?
It's not a cul-de-sac. No, it's a T.
I want to
T
know
turnaround,
how.
but it's-
I'm thinking of fire and
They've all approved.
EMT.
The turning radiuses are appropriate
Okay.
for the equipment.
And why hasn't there been any community outreach?
We just didn't feel that it was really necessary. I mean, the whole area is being redeveloped into this kind of facility. So, to notify the neighbors that are in a similar building, it just didn't really seem necessary.
So there's no homeowners in these
No.
places?
Not that we.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this? Yes. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Eric Bigham, 3181 Southwest 44th Street. I represent, as they were talked about, the property just to the north of them. That used to be my family's. We were developers, my grandfather, my mother. If you look, the closest development to Griffin Road is, I believe it's what, 1 acre, half acres, 5 units, 10 per acre. There's a development just to the south of where they're trying to develop. There's only 10 units on there. And when you talked about the traffic, the 5 acres was undeveloped on all the times that they were doing the traffic. And the reason came for the FP&L thing, but I still live on the street. I've lived there my whole life. As I said, we used to own the whole street, and that traffic is just going to get worse as far as, they're already adding 55 units at 3-bedroom homes plus 2 cars. Renters could be 3 cars plus another 11 plus there's another 10. And who's to say there's not going to be more developers to come and put more townhouses on those properties? So, I don't know if they can redo the traffic assessment on the next street to the west. They have traffic humps. And also, like I said, I'm not opposed to development into them because we were going to do that to the 5 acres we owned before. But if you look to the closest property built, there's only 10 units. And there's no pool, there's no clubhouse, there's no room. And I know that from looking into it when we were building. It's just for the community, for the area, most of them are townhouses and apartments and rentals, but for the only few people who didn't get notices that do live in the area and have been for the whole time, maybe some traffic humps would help. But
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart?
Yes.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor James?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion and possible action. First item I wanted to bring to the commission is a special designation for the coal fines. I want to ask that they be used for branding and marketing, and so I asked city manager how much money
These
like
mics
taking a
are
basketball to the
problem
head.
tonight.
Okay. Time for an upgrade.
Yes.
I asked city manager how much money, because we're doing this rebranding and we have to look at how we are going to get some monies to afford and to start this stuff before the next budget comes. And I know from the magistrate and the code fines, they just go back into the general fund. And so I was asking if it was an issue or a problem if we allocated those monies to be used for our branding. I don't know how each of you all feel about that, but we do have especially 2 of the items to be studied, like City Hall and I've spoken, and I know I probably have to go for RFP or RFQ, whichever one it is, for the Frost Park site and for the City Hall site, but you need consultants to really study that stuff. And I know we're always saying we don't have money, but we have money. We just have to learn how to shift it around. So I'm not sure how you all feel about it. That was my discussion item to allocate those monies for our branded initiative, because we've already rebranded and now we have to start funding it.
How much money do we have?
To my knowledge, it would be around $200,000 a year.
For what? Oh, Colin?
Yeah, Colin Donnelly, Assistant City Manager. This year, the commission, but in our annual budget, it's $275,000. Now, those revenues do come in. They do come into the general fund, and they offset the budget. So if we're to designate those for the branding, we've already sort of used those funds this year in the budget. But for next year, you would have to go through and replace that money with something else. The money does come in, and the thing about those code fines is that they do come in. They're very erratic in their amounts. They've been up to $400,000, down to $200,000, just because of the nature of code fines. Some people may take a while to pay, so they're not a uniform amount on a regular basis.
Have we taken a study as to how much we think we would need for the branding?
No, that's to come, but after we take the study, we're going to be at a standstill if we don't find a way to fund any of it.
Excuse me, I spoke with, I had an opportunity to speak with just about Nikki about how we would accommodate the branding this year. Since we've already set our budget, in the first year we would take it out of, we could take it out of reserves, or you could take it out of your contingency account based on what that type of funding is, and we can build it into the budget here, hereafter. Once you have a marketing plan, once we know, then we can take that out of the budget, or build it into the budget rather.
So we
Commissioner Salvino.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm all for the branding. I'm not sure about taking this money this way, but doesn't mean I'm against it. But I thought that when we discussed the branding, that when we brought in
FEMA.
Help me out here.
FEMA.
FEMA. Yes.
Not FEMA. FEMA.
SEMA. When we brought SEMA in, he offered and volunteered his time.
He did.
To do this, which is very nice. I thought that I had also heard that along the way there that we had a person that was out there that said they were going to raise the funds for the branding through developers and stuff like that. And I never heard anything in the beginning about the money's coming from the city.
Right.
A marketing council. So when you rebrand, all of the hours that was spent and all of the staff that Redline Media Marketing used that would have been on other projects, but in turn they work for the city. Rebranding is very expensive. It's very time consuming. They did a great job, and it was all pro bono. Didn't cost the city a dime. I do know that you will eventually need a budget for all of the signage and cards and stuff. Like, there's no way. And they are trying to compose a marketing council, which would help with some of these funds, but I don't think that all of our businesses are going to pay for our complete rebranding in the city.
Okay, I think that we could work on that as a team and figure it out. The other question I have, though, is that even though that, and this is just a legality point, even though he's done a great job, when this goes over $25,000, doesn't this have to go out to bid?
Yes.
Does what have to go out to bid?
Doesn't mean he gets the job because
who gets the job?
SEMA.
What job are you talking about?
The branding of like pardon me?
He already branded us.
Okay. Well, somebody's got to work with.
Oh well, if it comes down to us doing a contract with him and continuing, then yeah, it will go out to bid. I don't think anyone has an issue with that. I mean, we have to follow whatever protocol it's in.
All right, it's just questions.
Okay, Commissioner Brandon Marty.
Yeah, we can set up a contingency fund for branding, right?
We could set up like a capital project, like you would for a building or a project. We could take funds out of reserves, set those aside for the marketing. We could certainly do that.
And we have a second choice. We could budget it into next year's budget.
You could do both. I mean, you can get your cost estimates for your first year, which we're in, and then as you come into the next year, you can work it into your budget as well.
So where's Nikki?
Nikki had some personal issues tonight. She wasn't available to come.
Okay. Well, since you spoke with her, so she said that another option would be to, if we had anything this year and they come back with stuff so we can start it now instead of having to wait until another year, it would be to take it out of the reserve?
Yeah, we have reserves, and we would change the budget and bring this in as a budget item, fund it through reserves for the first year,
right?
And as we create the budget into next year, we can build it into our budget.
Right. Okay.
I think it's setting a bad example when we do stuff like that. I mean, we talked about it before.
Not out of reserves.
I think that we really need to work on this right now. Workshop it to see.
We can do a workshop.
How we can take the money from the budget from coming up for this fiscal year to next year, or whether or not we can take it out of contingency, but not the reserve.
Okay. How much money do we have in the contingency?
In the commission contingency, there's approximately $90,000.
Okay.
How much does it cost to do the complete rebranding? The complete rebranding.
I think that Red Line will be at the next commission meeting with numbers. I don't want to give you numbers when I don't have them.
Yeah, Mayor, that's good that they're going to do that, and because then we'll see where they're at to know that we got to put it out to bid.
Where we got what we need to get, how we're going to get to it.
We don't know what we're doing there.
Okay. Well, I'll propose that we wait until the next meeting when we get the presentation, and then if we have the workshop, is there anyone opposed to a workshop?
No.
Not me.
No, just got to get together on the dates, that's all.
Okay, great. Second item, city manager recruitment plan, which is my item again. This is something that I've been very transparent and speaking to our city manager about for about a year now since I've been elected. We all know that his time is coming to an end this year at some point in time. I do know that whenever I know in speaking with him, he has told me that he was going to propose to maybe leave around June. And I think, in my opinion, that's too late. In my opinion, I think that he's done, I'm thanking him for everything that he's done, but I think that we are going to go through a transition when he is no longer with us. And I don't want to go through that transition around budget time. I don't want to have someone else in here around budget time having to get to know all of us and how it works and knowing all of the employees and what all of us want for our next budget. And so I would rather it be sooner than later. I'm not sure how everyone else feels, but I don't want to go through that type of a transition in the middle of the year. I don't want to go through that type of transition before budget. And I mean, this item has been on the agenda more than once, and I just want to know what everyone else is thinking at this time. Commissioner Grace, sorry.
In order for us to be transparent and in the sunshine, I don't think it's really right for us to discuss this item without him being here tonight. I do understand that we have some really major positions that we have to fill, including his with the human resource, the assistant, HR, Parks and Recreation, et cetera, but I think that we need to do this in a setting that we should all partake in. The city manager is on vacation now. I don't think it's right for us to discuss it without him being a part of the discussion. This is just the way I feel about it. I can't speak for anybody else. We talk about transparency. We talk about sunshine. I know that we need to fill that position, and I'm sure that we're capable of filling that position before we get to the end of November. We have a budget that we're going to be working on starting in April, May, June, July, and I think that at those times when we have the workshops that we can come up with a solution that will be conducive to this commission as to when we start looking and what we're looking for.
Commissioner Salvino.
Thank you, Mayor. I brought this up a while back about, the replacement of Bob Baldwin. And first of all, I agree with Commissioner Grace. I don't think we should have this meeting without him being here. But when I talked about the transition period, Dania's in a growing stage right now, and I think that I think it's vital that he's here for the next budget. I think that I don't think somebody can come into this city and work on the budget like he can because he's been here for so long. I'm not opposed to hiring a second city manager at this point and putting it in there. Like I said before, now it's January. By the time you hire somebody or hire within or whatever, you've got the situation where it could be 30, 60, or 90 days before you can find somebody that we'd all agree on. We all have opinions, but we all may agree on, and we find that person and agree on it. Then the next 4 or 5 months they can work together, transition, work on the budget together, then walk right into the part. Then he can walk out the door gracefully. That was what I said months ago, and I feel that that's the way he should go out the door. That's my opinion, Mayor.
Oh, that's fine.
Mine
Sorry.
is
I'm sorry. I'm getting to you. Commissioner Brandon Marty?
It is something wrong, Mayor, with these things tonight, though. They're crazy. All right. The city manager, this city came a long way under the guidance of the present city manager. When you look outside, you see what's being built. It was under his guidance, even though we do make the final decision. And I'll tell you, something was tried on me to get rid of me when I wasn't present, and I'll never see that as a protocol here in this room again. And I agree with Commissioner Grace. He's not here. Don't talk about it. Leave it alone. Also, I think that we should force, I'm a little bit different on this, but you got to see my point. I think that we should force the city manager, because of how great we're doing right now, to stay here through the transition of the new city manager. Sort of like you were saying, Marco, I don't want any mistakes made here. At his same rate of pay, he'd know that he's got to be here to the end of, even if it's April, Mayor, but at least we know he has to be here. So I know that he's been working without a contract. It's been a verbal agreement, and no one could deny that, because where else would you pay somebody $145,000 a year and not know they're in their office? But the man has no contract, and I think to cover what we're sitting on, we should tell him that we want the contract with him, same that it is right now, until that transition is made and he leaves, which I don't believe he's staying to June personally. I don't think so. But still in all, I'm not anxious to get rid of him when we're at the top of the ladder. You don't know who the new manager is going to be. We may not even agree on him. And then what are you going to do with no manager? I ain't running the city, don't know how. She can't run the city, don't know how.
You don't know what I know.
Well, you're still learning this up
That's
here.
Fine,
I saw
but
that
you can't
tonight.
speak. But you can't speak for me.
All right, and the new manager should get a headhunter to start setting up the interviews. That I agree on. That I would say is right. But you should stipulate that Mr. Baldwin, that he's got to stay until the new manager is hired, so that he can make that transition. We can't be without a manager. We've been on this commission long enough to know that. Picture this, he's gone tomorrow. What do you see the next day?
Chaos.
Chaos, more than chaos. You'll see all kinds of money, I'm sorry, I got to say this, all kinds of money being spilled willy-nilly, instead of really making plans on how that money should be spent. I'm telling you, don't do it. You'll be in worse shape than we ever was.
Right. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I wasn't proposing that he leaves today and not be a consultant or not be a part of the city or and I definitely ran my campaign on transparency, and I definitely have spoken to him in the last few days. I've definitely spoken to him every week. I've definitely spoken to him about this on more than one, on more than two, on more than 3 occasions. And so I definitely don't want anyone out there to think that this is something underhand. I don't want anyone to speak, to think that this is something that's being discussed and he has no knowledge of it. Okay, so I want that to be on record, number one, because I don't do shady business. And to imply anything other than that, I think that is disrespectful on my name. And so, as I said, I have been very transparent with City Manager Baldwin. And I told him a few days ago, I said, I can't speak for any other commissioner. And you can like me and you can hate me, but I'm going to speak what's on my mind. And it might not be in agreement to anyone else, but I respect how y'all feel, and I expect that in return. How I feel is how I feel, and you guys are welcome to feel how you feel. I don't mind if you guys are saying he should be in the room. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not trying to force anything down anyone's neck. I just want to have a conversation, and I do think that it's a lot of things that we want to move forward. I think that it's a lot of things that we have to work on for this next budget, and I do think that even if right now, if he served as a consultant, he would still be here. I have no bad blood with him. He's been great to me since I've been here. I have nothing, he has done nothing harmful to me. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying this out of spite. I put this on there because he didn't do something for me. Not the case. He knew exactly what I was going to say tonight. Vice Mayor?
I had a conversation with Bob last Friday too, and he's kind of signaled to me that he was just basically about ready to go. And so I know his services. He's done an excellent job over the lean times and the years and 9 years, and his contract's not expired. And when everybody talks about the budget all the time, well, we have a very well-staffed, highly paid finance department that ought to be able to do the budget. So my thoughts, based on my conversations, is our public services director really proved himself after the hurricane, is to move him into the position as training with the city manager, keep Bob on as a consultant, pay him out for the next 3 months, and everybody's happy. That's my thoughts.
Commissioner Salvino?
I'm sorry. Thanks, Mayor. Just the last comment. The thing is, I know that Bob is ready to go, and he's already mentioned it to us, and I don't have a problem with him going out gracefully. But right now we're also in a situation where we've lost our HR director, our HR assistant. We don't have a Parks and Recreation is getting ready to retire. Miss Felicity just left. I mean, we're like 5 or 6 people down right now, and
Louise will be leaving.
I think we need to, I think we need to let things go calm here for a little bit and hire these people on, and then move on to the big guy. But I'm just we lose that, then we're down to skeleton crew. Thank you.
Already. Not only that, Judy left, Louise will be leaving.
Go ahead, Commissioner Brandon Marty.
No, I just said also.
Your number's lit, so.
List that. I'm sorry. Add to that list. We're like more than 5 really, because you got to add not only Mark Felicity, but also Louise. Louise is going to be leaving too. We're not at a point where we can afford to lose another person. Right now, no. That's why we have stability.
Okay.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Based on my conversations with other mayors in other cities, the public services director is an integral part. Not that the assistant city manager isn't, but he expressed interest to me in taking the job. We've all, complimented him on his performance after the hurricane.
Brad.
And I got to tell you, every time I call Brad, he calls me right back. I can't say that for everybody else. So I'm just suggesting that we enter him and train him, and he kind of indicated to me that he could do both jobs as a city manager and a public services director, and see how he goes for the next couple of months. And then, if he doesn't like it or it's not suited for him, then he could go back to public services, and then we'd have to hire a recruiter, and it would cost us thousands of dollars to get a top-notch recruiter for a top-notch individual. And I know from being in the League of Cities that the talent out there is not that great for city managers in cities of our size. So that's something to consider too. So maybe we need to have a conversation about the rest of that too.
Well, it's clear that the consensus doesn't want to really, we're going to have this discussion again on the 23rd, and I'm okay with that. However, since you have, whoever has interest in someone that wants to be here in the interim, if we could all have their resumes so we could at least be prepared to discuss certain opportunities for the next meeting. If we should decide to have him as a consultant and still here in a transition phase, I know that, I've spoken with city manager and he said, if y'all want me to leave, I'll leave. It's not like he's like really fighting to stay here, to be honest with you. We have...
that's not true.
First of all, you can't tell me what conversations I've had.
Yes, I can.
No, you cannot. Excuse me.
You've asked him to resign on 3 occasions.
Excuse me. Thank you. Unless my phone is bugged, and unless you're a fly on the wall, I know I can recall my own conversations with the city manager. We can call him on the phone now. I've had my own conversations with him, and on every occasion, he has told me, if that's what the commission wants, I will leave. He said, all one commissioner have to do is tell me to leave, and I'll leave. Okay? So I am very aware. Hey, Facebook Live. I am very aware that of the conversations I've had with the city manager. And you can say it's not true, but unless you're there, and I know that's your buddy, I know you kind of hate me tonight, but oh well, I still love you. Happy New Year.
Well,
wait, it's not your time.
I rang my bell.
And it's not your time.
For what?
To talk.
Why?
Because your number 3 is
I'm equal to you. I can speak too.
Not when it's not your turn.
Oh.
Okay. You okay? We can hug after this. I mean, it's going to be okay.
Oh, believe me, that hug has to be very far away from you because I don't like anything you said tonight while the person is not present.
And that's fine. And guess what?
Commissioner Grace asked you not to have a discussion on this.
And that's fine.
I'm sorry.
It's not your turn to speak. Thank you. Vice Mayor, you have anything else? Because your light is on. Okay.
I feel the way I feel too.
Okay, Commissioner Grace?
Yeah, I think that we should table this until the 23rd. I think that is our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that we will all be on the same pages, that we know we have to move forward to make sure that we have a city manager in place before November. But I think that this is really not the time for us to do it.
Okay, great. Commissioner Brandon Marty?
No, I'm done.
Oh, great. Next item, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Brandon Marty?
No.
Commissioner Grace?
Yeah, I served on the Planning Council for Broward County for many, many years, and I know that we have had plans in place as we move for 2020, 2040, and what happened in this room tonight just really did not set well with me in the future that we're moving forward for Broward County. So I think that we should really be cautious and optimistic of how we present ourselves as elected officials and go about the business of doing what is correct and what is right. We might not always be on the same page, but as we're talking about moving Dania Beach into the 20-whatever century, we have to be about the business of doing city in the city of Dania Beach. So I am hoping that at the end of my tenure in November that we will be on the same page and do those things that are pleasing as a TEAM up here. I was wondering why my phone was blowing up so much as at the end of December, I was out of town burying my dad, and there were people that was calling on my phone that I had not heard from all the last 3 years, but now I think it's just obvious to me when this thing came up about the trip to India, and I was the mayor of the city of Dania Beach when the Danish came over from Denmark, and Mac had the lavish party for them at his house, and then in 2004, the city of Dania Beach decided to go there to showcase Dania Beach, which was the first city by the Danish people that came here and founded Dania Beach. With that being said, I can remember Broward County and Dade County coming together to support Haiti when Aristide was in office. And because we had so many people that were coming to Broward County and coming to Dade County from Haiti, and Congressman Alcee Hastings had this elaborate forum at the Hilton in Miami, where all of the elected officials from Broward County and Dade County came together to send a delegation to Haiti to see how we could support those people and bring about some of those people coming to Broward and Dade County. Well, I can tell you sincerely, I definitely didn't have the money to go to Haiti, but I went, and I was an elected official for the city of Dania Beach. And then the state representative, Hazel Rogers, who was the mayor of Lauderdale Lakes, put together a delegation to go to Jamaica for tourism for Broward and Dade County. And we actually had an opportunity to take that trip with delegations from Broward and Dade County. And I certainly did not have the funding for Bobby H. Grace to go, but we all went to represent our cities. So I'm sure that we have to really think about some of the things that we say and what we do, hopefully not out of spite, or I wasn't invited, and of course I would have loved to have been invited to go to this function, but I am going to make sure that in the next 10 months, 11 months, that I'm going to represent the city of Dania Beach on every turn, on every dime of every promotional item that I can think of to showcase my city, Dania Beach, at the cost of the city of Dania Beach and the taxpayers who appointed me, who voted for me to have this position, to make sure that we do the best to our knowledge, to make sure that our city is out there and is represented. I also want to take this time to make my condolences to the Collins family, to the Trellis family, to the Morgan family, and to the McKenna family, who lost members of their families. It's only been 1 week of 2018, but we lost all these people the first week of 2018. So I caution us to, we all can't play nice, even though I want it to be that way. I wished it could be that way. I've learned throughout the years that it just doesn't happen. I've seen lately people who sat on this dais at one time or another with us that have been absolutely unprofessional in the last 2 months of how they carry themselves in a very unprofessional manner. I refuse to sink that low because I represent too many beautiful, intelligent, knowledgeable, pioneer people in the city of Dania Beach. I might not always get it right, but I will do my utmost to make sure that I represent this city to the best of my knowledge and my ability. And that's how you entice residents, businesses to come into this wonderful city, which I love so much. I don't think my parents would have made this the stopping point in 1951 if they didn't see something very positive about Dania Beach. I would tell anybody that I travel all over the world, but there is nothing like coming home to Dania Beach. I am proud to represent this 30,000 plus residents of the city of Dania Beach. I know that times you're not pleased with the way that I vote on issues, I handle myself, but I do the best I can. And you can rest assured that when I lay my head down at night after I prayed, I fall asleep and I don't get up until 10 o'clock the next morning, because I've done the best that I could, not only for my city, but my family. I worked that name, Grace, proudly for 55 years, and I'm going to continue to do that. We have done some fabulous things in the CRA tonight, in this city commission, but I think that when I walk out the door in November, my head will be just as high as it is right now, because I've done the best that I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Salvino?
I'm good tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I'll be around.
It's short. There's you know, because it's late, I'm not going to go into everything, but there's a whole list of things that weren't completed in the last year. And I just want to ask one question while I see him out there less. I mean, the COPS program. You know, there seems to be an uptick in the amount of graffiti all around town. Is it a responsibility of the COPS program to maybe like take a picture and send it to me where the graffiti is located, so we can start taking a look at it and getting it? I mean, would that be something that you could do? And maybe, I mean, you got an iPhone, you can just take a picture and send it to me, because I mean, all the way out.
Come on, Chief.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
We also started carrying around some, it's like a little paint to go over it if we
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then, you know, the other question, that's good. That's fine. We'll work on that. But the other question that I asked you was there any inquiries from anybody in City Hall about the security plan for a City Hall entrance when we asked for metal detectors and all that? Because I haven't heard anything else about that.
We're actually in the process of doing the SEPTED assessment, which will give suggestions.
Okay.
We'll be able to bring suggestions to you about metal detectors, one-way access,
Okay.
what the city can do to make this a safer place.
Okay.
You have a now?
There's a lot of other things. I mean, even, you know, about these microphones tonight and upgrading our. This doesn't have anything to do with you, but I know you can't help me there.
But you're going to get blamed for it.
Yeah. You know, the AV system. I mean, I clicked on Tiki TV today to try to watch the video from the last meeting, and there was no sound. Yeah. And then it would stop, and then it would get blurry. So what are we paying for Tiki TV, and why do we have it when somebody sitting out there can stream it from an iPhone? It just seems like
they do it.
Additional expense that we don't really need. I mean, how much is that costing? It's just a lot of things. You know, the class and pay study, the stop sign on Northwest 1st and Bryan Road, which we still don't have an answer for, and it's going on a year. I mean, a little frustrated by the length of time it takes to get things done, up to and including the meeting room next door. We started talking about it last January or February, and it's still not done. I mean, it's just, it's a snail's pace. That's all. That's all.
Okay. Well, I want to first again say Happy New Year and thank you all for staying. It's been a long... Sir, no, you can't come up. Are you the police? No. You have a summons for the city? In the middle? Who paying you? I don't want it. There go our attorney. I don't know. Okay.
Wow.
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. I don't know him. I gotta watch my back.
Broward County has a summons for the city. A summons.
I get it. That's fine. We got it. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you for coming.
You can do it on citizens' comments next time. Okay, like I was saying, thank you all for staying here to the end of the night. It's been quite an interesting first meeting. I want to address a few things. I really think it is important that we on the dais represent everyone who has placed us here, and to a fault that we are not going to agree on everything. That is clear. We're not going to go to each other's house or even speak after we get off of here. That is clear. But while we are up here, we do need to be respectful of each other and our opinions, because we all have a lot of opinions. But I do think it is a lot of disrespect that is up here when we don't agree. And at the end of the day, you can vote how you vote and you can go home. No one up here is going to make me lose any sleep. You know, I'm sure I'm not going to make anyone else lose sleep. But at the end of the day, we are in a place to where we are changing, and we are changing fast. And just like our residents will be changing, the people who occupy these new units, because a lot of these new units are not affordable for me or a lot of people in the surrounding areas to live in. They're coming from elsewhere. A lot of the people who propose these developers, they're not American. They're not native here. They come from elsewhere. And so I just think that we need to have more of an open mind when it comes down to things, because, again, we are living in a time where you have to be cultured. And I'm sorry if traveling has not been a part of everyone's life. I've traveled the world, and I'm very proud to say I have. And the city has not paid for me to travel the world. And it's just very funny when I look back on a lot of the commissioners that served here and a lot of the trips that they went on. And a lot of them cover the same things that you can even get online. And it's just not the point. And I do know that if it was in the state or in the country of the U.S. versus going to another country, it wouldn't have been a problem. So what's for me, no one can take that from me. And I stand by that. I just ask that we all be respectful of each other. And when we leave here, please don't have malice in your heart. It's just not, it's not attractive. So again, I offer you all hugs, and I don't care if you don't want them. Still love y'all. There's nothing you can do about it. I want to know how HR responsibilities right now are being spread out.
Yes, Mayor. I'm going to pass down two items. One is the city manager's update, which I'll go through, and the other one is the just a memo to the city manager on what we're doing with HR. So Tom, pass those down. The responsibilities for HR are we've got in order to as been mentioned tonight, we have a few positions that are open. We're using temporary staffing for administrative duties. The division's core duties are being divided up amongst the administrative staff. Or we're using some of our key healthcare and consulting and insurance vendors to give us some added assistance during this time. And we're going to have a consulting contract with Kristen Milligan. The workers' compensation and general liability issues are going to be handled with Lori Adams in the legal department. Payroll and benefits is going to be done by our finance department, Jamie Guzman. Personnel file questions and retrieval through the city clerk's office. Employee general issues will be handled by me through Chris Latier, and Chris will be doing the certificates of insurance. We've put together a provisional HR team that'll be working and meeting on a regular basis to address all of our issues. We've got our recruitment of our open positions is ongoing. I know particular interest to the City Commission is the athletic director. So that position has been closed. We reviewed all the applicants, and all the applicants that meet our minimum standards have been gone through to the department, and they're going to go through those and rank their candidates, and we'll start on interviews. And we're going to
Who will be interviewing you?
No, the interviews are done by the department.
Okay.
And HR is involved as well.
Well, Okay, so who?
Well, they sit down and they go through.
Who is HR?
HR, it will be myself.
Okay.
I'm part of HR and have been. They sit down and then sometimes they sit and they go through the interview process.
Okay.
And our recruiting strategy for the HR manager, we've recruited for that. We've got some finalists selected. We'll be starting the interviews and discussing with them this week to bring them on first, the HR manager. And from there, we will fill the 2 other HR positions.
Okay, as far as the HR, a suggestion was said to me, and I thought it was necessary that I bring it up. Do we think that the HR manager needs to be a director?
Why?
Because of what and who we're doing right now, like the capacity of what Dania Beach is going to be. We're going to be expanding. And we have directors in almost every other department, and we have a manager and a generalist in HR, and I think it's very important. I don't know if we can do a search or how to do that, but it's just a suggestion that was brought to me, and I think that it's necessary. I think it's time that we have a serious HR director position that can handle everything that's going to be thrown at them.
Isn't that what Jackie was?
She was not a director.
What was she?
A manager.
Just manager.
When the city transferred the fire department over to BSO, part of the cost savings was to downgrade the HR department head to an HR risk manager. So, since we lost about 70 employees, and that's the way we've been functioning thus far. But I can tell you that we've had some high-quality candidates apply for the HR manager position. Some of them have been HR directors in other cities. So there's a good pool out there.
What's the cost difference?
Offhand, I don't know. I know that the HR manager position goes up to, I believe, $100,000.
So the director will be basically what we have for the city manager, CRA, Parks and Rec?
Yeah, director.
It would be on par with those, yes.
Okay. So wouldn't it be advantageous for us to have someone with those qualities in that position, simply because that job is a very important job?
If the city commission, if we want to upgrade that to a department head, that's something to consider. It is an important position, as well as the human resources. The risk management is quite important as well. So that would be something to consider.
Vice Mayor?
I agree with you, Mayor, about the director's position, because as the city grows, there will be more employees, there'll be more training, there'll be more compensation and benefits. There'll be risk management and, the ongoing thing in the news about sexual harassment and all that. And we need a trained professional in there to train our employees and keep them abreast of all the new HR laws. So, yes, a director.
Yeah.
Commissioner Salvino?
Is there a chance?
No.
Hello, can you hear me now? Is there any chance that you could bring back to us the difference between a director and a manager, what the manager was doing and what they would lose that the director would take, and the difference in pay scale for us at the next meeting?
Yeah, I could certainly do that. We would it would be shifting around of duties, but that's be something we can do.
Well, right. I realize right now because we don't have a director, your manager you've delegated some of the duties to the fire department, you said, or to BSO or whatever.
No, basically to administrative people in this building, the finance department, the clerk, clerk, and the city attorney's office.
Right. So my point is, you'd take all that away from them, and give it to the director, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just looking to see what you've spread out, what they would be taking back in there. That's all. Kind of consolidate it and see what it is.
Oh, we can give you a plan for the next commission meeting, to create a department head. And basically, what you're asking for is a reorganization, and we can do that.
Okay.
I have a question. Do we have what's delegated to the staff that we have? And I know this may sound tedious to y'all, but it's important to me. Are they qualified to be doing certificate of insurance when they're just administrative? Like that's very important. Certificate of insurance. It has to be filled out properly. All your I's have to be dotted, and all your T's have to be crossed. That's liabilities.
The technical issues for insurance all go through Michelle Martin and Pidgeot. They're really processing them. They come in so we can get them to our insurance professional to look at. They're managing the workflow. They're not making decisions on those things.
Okay. Well, back to my other comments. It's a lot of change. It's a lot of things and decisions that need to be made here in the city, and I know we have a lot of positions that are not filled right now that need to be filled, and I just don't want the entire year to be gone and we're still going through transition. And so, again, I just want us to all be open-minded, and I really want us all to be respectful. I don't want this commission to go back to a commission where it was a few years ago where, you know, you didn't have people speaking to each other. I mean, it's really not that deep. And as you grow, you should grow. You should evolve. You should not be the same person that you were yesterday. And if it's anything I've dealt with my entire life, it's being on a team, and it's being able to work as a team regardless of personal feelings. And so this is something that I think is very important, and we are leaders of this community, and you don't know how many emails I get about the demeanor of people that are on this dais, and I think that we really ought to be very cautious and mindful of the way we are representing our city. Commissioner Grace?
I just want this commission and, of course, the directors of all the departments to be cautious and optimistic. I'm going to be looking for one of those positions at the end of November.
Goodbye. Let me go to, okay, so I guess that's the end of my comments. Appointments. The Dania Beach Housing Authority, I have someone that I want, but I don't know if they meet the qualifications. Maybe you can tell me afterwards.
They would have to tell us if they meet right what it says right here.
Well, they're not here.
No, I mean, they would have to
be here.
Okay, they would have to submit it.
Submit and say they prove that one of these things, we'll work with them.
Okay, so I would like to appoint Anna Hilliard. She isn't a resident of Dania Beach, but neither is Tiffany Carlisle. You don't have many people that fit this term that want to serve with our current housing director. Just to be honest with you all, there is a huge disconnect between our housing authority and the residents that live in those communities. And I am still a little bothered, and I need to figure out how to get to a point to where one person made 7 appointments on this board, and there's only 7 appointments to be made. I don't know by law if that is even possible.
Shouldn't have happened.
Oh, it was voted on 4-1.
Yeah, but I can show you what happened. It wasn't just an odd thing, a way the things other people retired, or they left, whatever the reason. And at that time, Mayor Salvino ended up doing a lot of appointments because people left. So he filled for unexpired. Well, he filled for.
It's on you. It shouldn't have happened.
You filled.
It's
You.
on you.
He filled for unexpired.
That doesn't mean it's the wrong people.
No. You filled for unexpired portions of terms, so it came before you. She was one. The mayor's questioning how could one person do it all.
I just know how it's set now. The next mayor is going to appoint 5 people to this board. That it's no longer staggered. It's no longer fair how it's done. And so I'm not saying that Commissioner Salvino went and did all this himself.
He didn't do it himself. Absolutely.
I want it on the record that I am not accusing him of doing it. What I'm saying is, when I look at the paper and it's in front of me, 7 places are appointed by Commissioner Salvino. And 5 of those places, I looked at the dates, will be filled by whoever the next mayor is. And I think I read that only 3 or maximum 4 are supposed to be filled by one person in one cycle, or however you want to
We'll try to put it on the next agenda so we can show it to you again, if we can. So all the commission can see it at one time.
That's fine. You can put it on the next agenda, but I need us to really look into
how it happened and what's going on.
Not how it happened. You told me how it happened, but how we can fix it moving forward. I'm not kicking anyone off, but for the next person to have 5 appointments, it's stacking the deck. It's just unfair. Oh, Commissioner Brandon Marty?
You know, through the mayor to Tom. Tom, the mayor's right on that, because when you look at all of our other placements of people on the other boards, you don't see one person having all of them. And to me, it looked weird at first too, but I did not understand that at that time it was because people left. But it's still not right that one person should have the right to stack that board.
Again, the way it's
I'm not mean you, Mark. I'm talking about the next mayor.
But the short version is that when the vacancies came up to the commission, he was the mayor. Somebody gave him names, or he had names, and then all of you had to ratify what he proposed.
Well,
if you had three people that said no, the person could have been appointed.
Is that for the future?
No, and all these terms are staggered. So we'll have to go back and show you by the 23rd.
But they're no longer staggered. You know why? Because it goes by when they start serving. And what then Commissioner Jones did, he appointed people 3 months before their expiration date. He already renewed their stuff, because I was at the meeting when it was a 4-1 vote on 3 individuals. That was a couple of months, and it was a couple of months before the election. That's what happened. And I just, you don't understand unless you come to the Housing Authority Board meetings, unless you have a direct relationship with these residents that live there. There is an issue over there. And it's not in a lot of our backyards, so maybe a lot of us don't care. But when you have a housing authority that are supposed to be for the people that are there, and you have the residents that can't go to the very people that are supposed to be serving and protecting them, that's the issue. And we can't do anything about it, because I've been asking the city, what can we do? Who do they answer to? And all I get is, oh, nothing. You cannot tell me that a housing authority in Dania Beach, and we have no jurisdiction over the way they're treating our residents. It's unacceptable for me. It's unacceptable for me, and something needs to happen. Something needs to change, and I can tell you, with one person having 5 people on whoever they want on this board, nothing is going to change. Unless it changes drastically one way or another. And then you know what we're going to have? We're going to have a turnover rate of a lot of individuals that are being on this board and being displaced off of this board, because it's going to be 5 people. It's going to be 5 people that are going to be appointed every single every other term.
I'll try to bring it back so that we understand what happened.
Commissioner Brennan,
and what's going forward.
The next mayor that comes up, just have everybody make a suggestion or put applications in. And that's how I got the last ones. I don't even remember who
I know you didn't care who you appointed, you just appointed people, and this is the problem. I'm not blaming you, but what I'm saying, I'm not being nasty. What I'm saying, you're saying that you can't remember, or you. No, okay.
Say something, Mayor.
You can say something, then I'm going to say something.
Okay. And the worst part, to add on to what you were saying, is that some of the people that have really pain over there are afraid to come here and, Mayor, somebody's talking, and talk to us out of fear of retaliation.
And they
is
will
that
be
right or wrong?
I
Am I
know.
telling it right or wrong?
You are, and my point is, and I wasn't saying this, and if you feel like I'm being nasty, I apologize. I'm not being nasty. What I'm telling you, you sit here and say that you don't even know who you appointed, because this is a very important board again, and so I know that. Well, I would know 7 people that I appointed on a board. I would know at least some of their names. 7 under your name, sir. Okay. And so anyway, my point is not to prolong this. The bottom line is, thank you, Vice Mayor, is that we need to understand who we are placing on these boards, and not because you just come and give a suggestion and I don't really care. Okay, well, yeah. Okay, you want this person? I'm going to put it on the board. That's what happened. Just because someone served there before, it doesn't mean they ought to still be there now. And that's what happened. We did renewals. There wasn't even any discussion. We had someone make a motion, someone make a recommendation to the mayor, who was then Mayor Salvino. We had Mayor Salvino just say, okay, because that's not even where you reside or even have a vested interest over there, so it doesn't even matter. But those people on that board, and that board is very, very, very important.
It is.
In my opinion, and it should be in every commissioner's opinion that's up here.
I don't like them coming here crying and being scared either. That bothered me.
Okay, moving along. So, Anna Hilliard,
And you'll provide all the information
I'll
on her?
provide all the information.
Are there any more appointments to any other boards tonight?
Do we have anyone for the Green Advisory Board?
I have someone for the Marine Advisory Board, Louise. I have his information right here.
Okay.
You do? His name is Richard Croker, or is it Crocker? One of them.
One of them.
Make a motion that we accept the appointments that were given to us tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Administrative reports.
Oh, hi. I was wondering whether Colin Donnelly, Assistant City Manager. I was wondering whether Tom was going first, excuse me. I passed out the document, Mr. Baldwin's updates on projects. I can go through that, or if you'd like, you can go through it and then you can call me tomorrow if you have any questions on it. There's updates to some of the things that were addressed here tonight. Yes, there are 3 pages. There's 3 pages of updates. I could certainly do that tonight, or you can go through it at your leisure, and then I can
We'll go through
answer
it
your questions.
separately.
I don't think I'll be up.
Who wants to hear it tonight?
Not me.
Okay. We'll go through it separately.
Lastly, I just want to remind the audience that we've got the Martin Luther King Day celebration on Monday.
Okay.
That's all.
That's
Thank
it?
you. Yes.
City Attorney.
Nothing to add.
All right, City Clerk.
Next meeting, Tuesday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. That's it. Thank you.
Being adjourned.